Chapter 1040. Ji Tianxing stepped on the soul magic sword, flying across the sky as fast as lightning. Soon, he arrived at the shore. The shore wasn't a beach, but a patch of black reefs. Wave after wave of waves crashed against the reefs on the shore, splashing water everywhere. The shore, which was covered with reefs, was a mess. There were messy footprints, broken stones, and many broken weapons and armors. These were the traces left by the demon soldiers when they were running away. Ji Tianxing flew over the shore and continued to fly to the land. After crossing the shore, he left the eastern sea and entered the territory of the northern desert demon clan. As far as his eyes could see, the land was desolate, full of murderous and bleak aura. The land was grayish-brown. The land was very barren. There was only barren soil and broken stones. There wasn't a trace of green. On the land of the northern desert, there was almost no forest or grassland. No matter if it was spring, summer, autumn, winter, or day or night, the sky here was always gray. There was no warm sunlight or bright moon. This was the land of god punishment abandoned by the gods. Except for the demon clan, no other race was willing to live and reproduce here. The gray sky, the barren and desolate land, and the increasingly cold air caused people to feel depressed and irritated for no reason. Ji Tianxing used his soul power to check the surroundings. He found that the heaven and earth aura that could be absorbed within dozens of miles was very thin. The mineral resources underground were also pitifully little. They could be ignored. No one would want to live in such a barren land. No wonder the demon clan swore to rush out of the northern desert and invade the territories of other races. Ji Tianxing frowned and sighed inwardly. Unknowingly, he had flown 100 miles away. At this time, he saw many mountains and many demon clan figures appear on the land 100 miles away. In the mountains 100 miles away, there was a black mist of demon chi that rose to the sky. One after another, demon squads patrolled the vicinity of the mountains, on guard. There were also flocks of black demonic crows and flying birds circling around the mountain peak, monitoring the movements in the sky. Without a doubt, that was the main camp of the demon army. Ji Tianxing descended from the sky and used a secret technique to conceal his aura as he quietly made his way towards the devil army camp. Although he could guess that there must be more than 10,000 demon warriors hiding in the demon camp, he didn't expect that there would be more than 10,000 demon warriors. However, he didn't put those ordinary devils in his eyes. With his current strength, only devil commanders could match him. Demon Commander Blood Shura should have been the commander of this army, but he had already been killed by him. There shouldn't be any powerhouses in the devil army that could threaten him now. However, he did not come to the northern desert to start a massacre and eradicate the demon army. If he wanted to rescue Yun Yao, he had to do it secretly. He couldn't expose his whereabouts too early. Once the devil general and the devil emperor knew that he had come to the northern desert, they would definitely take action. At that time, he would not be able to move around in the northern desert, and he would not be able to find Yun Yao, let alone rescue her. Therefore, he only approached the devil army camp to observe the situation. He didn't want to act rashly and alert the enemy. 15 minutes later, he had evaded more than 10 patrolling teams of demons and dozens of hidden sentries. He hid in the devil army camp. Several towering mountains that were thousands of meters high had been hollowed out by the devil army. Inside the mountains were huge devil caves that led to the depths of the earth. More than 10,000 demon warriors were hiding in the devil caves in the mountains, recuperating and adjusting their breathing. The devil army camp was filled with a panicked and anxious atmosphere. The devil army soldiers that came and went all looked worried and angry. Obviously, the news that Demon Commander Blood Shura and several elite devil generals had been killed had reached the devil army camp. The devil army had lost their leader. Like a plate of loose sand, the devil army no longer had the will to fight and fight. Ji Tianxing quietly moved through the devil army camp. After investigating for an hour, he finally found the outside of a secret chamber. This secret chamber hidden in the devil cave was cold and gloomy, and filled with dense devil chi. The outside of the secret chamber was heavily guarded by hundreds of elite devil army guards. Ji Tianxing used the earth burrowing technique to hide in the wall of the secret chamber, quietly investigating the situation inside. He saw that the gloomy secret chamber was lit with a dark red light. There were gemstone lamps in the corners of the room. 12 devil army experts were gathered in the secret chamber. They surrounded 2 devil army experts in the spirit refining realm and discussed military matters. The 2 devil army experts in the spirit refining realm. One was at the second level of the spirit refining realm and the other was at the first level. Ji Tianqing hid in the dark and listened for a while. Only then did he realize that these two were the Devil Army's deputy commander and military advisor. The other 10 Devil Army experts were the elite Devil generals of the Devil Army. A burly Devil general stepped forward and bowed to the deputy commander and military advisor. Full of worry, he said, "Deputy commander, military advisor, Lord Blood Shura has been killed by Ji Tianqing. Those elite Devil generals have also died in the East Sea. Our army's vitality has been greatly damaged. Now, the soldiers have lost their will to fight. The commanders who escaped reported to me that Ji Tianqing and the Prince of the Water Race, Tai Yi, are friends. They have a close relationship. Now that Ji Tianqing has come, he will definitely help Tai Yi with all his strength to resist our attack. Even Lord Blood Shura was not Ji Tianqing's match. Who among us can defeat him? For now, I think we should retreat decisively and let the soldiers rest. We cannot attack the East Sea anymore." The other Devil generals nodded in agreement. Another Devil general stepped forward and said to the deputy commander and military advisor, "My lords, if we continue to attack, we will only suffer more casualties. I think none of us can defeat Ji Tianqing. We must report this to the Heavenly Devil Palace and ask His Majesty the Devil Emperor to make a decision." The other Devil general hurriedly nodded and said angrily, "Deputy commander, please send the message back to the Heavenly Devil Palace and ask His Majesty to send a Devil Commander here. As long as the Devil Commander comes to the camp himself, he can easily kill Ji Tianqing and avenge Lord Blood Shura. By then, we will come back and attack the East Sea. We will make the water kind pay 10 times the price. All treasures and treasures of the water kind will belong to us." The remaining demon generals also agreed with this person's words. The deputy commander and the military advisor glanced at each other. They talked for a while through telepathic communication and reached a consensus. "Good. I now order the entire army to retreat 800 li and return to Snow Dragon Mountain to let the soldiers rest and recuperate. Ben Shui will report this to the Heavenly Devil Palace and ask His Majesty the Devil Emperor to make a decision. However, in the meantime, we have to strengthen the defense and guard against the Water-kind army's counterattack. Most importantly, we have to keep an eye on Ji Tianqing, in case he attacks our territory and breaks into our camp." Chapter 1041. The discussion between the generals, military counselors, and deputy generals soon ended. Ji Tianqing quietly burrowed into the ground and left the devil camp. Whether he entered or left the camp, he did not reveal his whereabouts and was not discovered by anyone. I didn't expect that these demon experts, who have never seen me before, would know of my name and deeds and be on guard against me. They want to report this to the Heavenly Devil Palace and let the ancient Devil Emperor make a decision. If the Devil Emperor knows that I am at the border of the East Sea, helping Tai Yi resist the demon army, will he lead his army? Or, will he send Demon Commander Minji to the East Sea to deal with me? As Ji Tianqing hurried on his way, he silently calculated in his heart. Whether it's the Devil Emperor coming in person or Devil Marshal Dark Knight, I'm not their opponent right now. My whereabouts have been exposed, and the demons are on guard against me. From now on, I must move more stealthily and not be discovered by the demons. Fortunately, I killed Blood Shura, and the demon army temporarily retreated and will not attack the East Sea. I hope the demons will focus on the Water Tribe. Then I will have a chance to sneak into the Devil Emperor's lair and rescue Yao Yao. After making up his mind, he became more cautious. An hour later, he was far away from the demon camp, crossed the Snow Dragon Mountain, and truly entered the northern desert. The Snow Dragon Mountain was a towering mountain range thousands of miles long, and it was also the pass between the East Sea and the northern desert. This barren black mountain range was made entirely of black-gray rocks. However, it was cold here, and snowflakes fell from the sky all year round. The entire Snow Dragon Mountain was also covered in white snow, and it was a scene of silver and white. When Ji Tianqing crossed the Snow Dragon Mountain, he found that the inside of the mountain was filled with hundreds of demon caves of various sizes. Each demon cave could hide thousands of demons, and the caves were connected to each other. More than 30,000 demons were stationed to guard the line of defense of the Snow Dragon Mountain. The demon army was fully equipped, wearing black armor, holding sabers, spears, swords, and halberds, and exuding demon aura and killing intent. These demons were all experienced elites. They guarded the first line of defense between the northern desert and the eastern sea. Ji Tianqing sneaked into Snow Dragon Mountain and silently observed the situation inside Snow Dragon Mountain. He drew a map of the Devil Race's army and put it in his interspatial ring. The reason why he wanted to remember this was to prepare for the attack on the northern desert in the future. He believed that many years later, all the races would unite and fight against the devil race of the northern desert. By then, he would give the map to Tai, and it would definitely help the army of the aquatic race break Snow Dragon Mountain and march into the northern desert. After leaving the Snow Dragon Mountain, Ji Tianqing continued to fly north, hurrying to the hinterland of the northern desert. The deeper they went into the northern desert, the darker and gloomier the sky became. Heavy snowflakes floated in the sky, and the ground was covered in silver. There were snow mountains and snowfields everywhere. The temperature here was extremely low. Ordinary flowers and trees could not survive here at all. They would be frozen into ice dregs. Even the soil on the ground had been frozen for thousands of years and was as hard as steel. Ji Tianqing flew for more than 1,000 li, but he did not see any more villages or towns where the devil race gathered. Before coming to the northern desert, he had made preparations in advance. He learned a few simple devil race languages and understood the customs of the devil race. He knew that the devil race was not like the other races, who divided their regions by villages, cities, and kingdoms. The devil race divided their forces by races and divided their regions by tribes. In the eyes of all the races in the world, the devil race was the same. They were ugly, savage, and cunning. But in reality, the devil race of the northern desert was roughly divided into 3 races: the blood devil race, the darkness devil race, and the azura devil race. The 3 races all cultivated the secret techniques of the devil path that had been passed down since ancient times. They all had different talents and secret techniques. The blood devil race was most skilled in using the secret techniques of the blood devil race. When they used their ultimate techniques, they would create a sea of blood that would cover the sky and cover the sun. The techniques they cultivated and the methods they used to increase their strength were also extremely evil and cruel. They used the blood of all living beings as the source of their power. The darkness devil race was most skilled in using the power of darkness. Their bodies were shrouded in black mist and devil chi, and they could display a bone-chilling power that contained the cold energy of death. As for the azura devil race, they were most skilled in close combat and combat. They inherited the characteristics of the legendary azura. They were born with immense strength and extremely tough bodies. They had strong defense and strength, extraordinary speed, and combat skills. They were killing machines on the battlefield. Of course, the 3 races were nominally ruled by the heavenly devil palace, and they had to respect the ancient devil emperor as the emperor. Moreover, the 3 races lived together in a messy manner. They were scattered among the various tribes and regions of the northern desert. There were thousands of devil race tribes of various sizes in the northern desert. The smaller devil race tribes might only have a few thousand people, while the more powerful tribes had tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of people. The larger devil race tribes usually had hundreds of thousands of people. There were only a few tribes in the northern desert that had more than 1 million people. They were the most elite tribes. In the process of Ji Tianqing hurrying along, he constantly encountered one devil race tribe after another. However, after flying for about 3 days, he was still in the outer regions of the northern desert. He had not entered the inner regions of the northern desert. The tribes he had encountered were scattered across the land of ice and snow. They were all small and weak tribes. In those small tribes, most of the devil race members were at the mystic and lightning realm. The elites in the tribes were at the primordial core realm. Only people like the chiefs and priests of the tribes were at the heavenly origin realm. When Ji Tianqing passed by those tribes, he stopped to observe them. He hid in the dark and observed the devil race's living habits. He learned the authentic devil race language and learned more about their habits and customs. He knew that knowing oneself and the enemy was the key to victory. He traveled alone in the northern desert. It was very difficult to cross hundreds of millions of miles of land and hundreds of devil race tribes to reach the devil emperor's lair. Especially when he had to hide his tracks and aura. He could not be discovered by the devil race. This was even more difficult. After serious consideration, he decided to learn and imitate the devil race. He disguised himself as a devil. Only in this way could he travel the northern desert, find the heavenly devil palace, and rescue his wife, Yun Yao. He hid in a small tribe of about 5,000 people and secretly observed and learned for 5 days. With his extraordinary talent and intelligence, he finally learned the devil race's common language and understood most of the devil race's customs and habits. On the night of the 5th day, he secretly killed a primordial core devil race youth. Then, under the guidance of the burial of heaven, he used the puppet secret art and attached his soul to the corpse of the devil race youth. Chapter 1042. That night, the north wind was blowing and snow was falling. Ji Tianqing took advantage of the night to leave the demon tribe. He flew across the sky and continued to fly towards the hinterland of the northern desert. At this time, he had turned into a 20-year-old demon tribe youth. He was more than 10 feet tall and wore black armor. He carried a black heavy sword that was as wide as a bench on his back. His whole body was emitting demon chi and killing intent. He had a new identity. He was the #1 genius of the Ula tribe, Oolong. Other than his divine soul, his body, flesh, and hair were completely of the demon tribe. Even if a spirit refining realm demon commander came, he might not be able to find any clues or flaws. Of course, he used his divine soul to take over Oolong's body. His own body was sleeping in the world inside the sword. While flying, he was communicating with Burial of Heaven using his divine soul. Buried Heaven, the puppet secret method that you've taught me is simply too amazing. Now that I'm disguised as a demon, I can definitely go through the northern desert unhindered. I'll soon reach the demon emperor's lair and find Yao Yao. I originally thought that the puppet secret technique was very mysterious and would take a long time to learn. I didn't expect that after you taught it to me once, I only used 2 hours to successfully take over Oolong's body. Burial of Heaven's voice sounded in his mind. He said in a serious tone, "Tonight, I'm only teaching you the puppet secret technique. When you're stronger, I'll teach you the doppelganger secret technique. Before you reach the spirit refining realm and condense your divine soul, your soul can't leave your body. Even if I taught you the puppet secret technique and the doppelganger secret technique, you wouldn't be able to learn them. Now that you've reached the spirit refining realm and condensed your divine soul, with your talent and comprehension, it'll be easy for you to learn these 2 secret techniques." Ji Tianqing nodded and said expectantly, "For now, I have to find Yao Yao as soon as possible and save her from the demon emperor's lair. After this is over, you have to teach me the doppelganger secret technique as soon as possible. If I can cultivate a clone, my strength will definitely skyrocket, and I will accomplish many unimaginable feats. The soul refinement realm is indeed a realm that surpasses the limits of mortals and possesses all sorts of divine abilities." At this moment, he could feel the difference between the spirit refining stage and the divine origin stage. It was like the difference between heaven and earth. Burial of Heaven said in a deep voice, "Tianqing, I have to remind you that although you've already possessed the body of a demon and disguised yourself as one, you're still a demon. But after all, you are not a true demon. Once you use a secret martial art, you will expose the attribute of your power, and the demons will see through your flaws. If he was dealing with an ordinary demon, he would only need to use ordinary martial arts and sword techniques to deal with them. But if you encounter a fiend race powerhouse, you mustn't use your secret arts. Otherwise you'll be seen through." Ji Tianqing's joy and anticipation immediately cooled down, as if a basin of cold water had been poured over his head. Damn it, I was so excited just now that I actually forgot about this. Burial of Heaven, this won't do. If I want to rescue Yao Yao, I'll definitely have to fight with a fiend race powerhouse. Don't tell me that I have to cultivate a fiend race secret art to not reveal any flaws? Burial of Heaven thought for a moment, and said in a deep voice, "Ordinary fiend race martial arts and secret arts are relatively simple. With your aptitude and perception, you'll be able to learn them very quickly. But the profound and powerful fiend race secret arts require a very long time to cultivate. Moreover, the fiend race's profound secret arts are very bloody and cruel. You can't possibly slaughter ordinary people just to cultivate. There's only one way now." "What way?" Ji Tianqing's heart was filled with strong expectations. Burial of Heaven said in a calm voice, "You need to learn some simple fiend race martial arts and secret arts to deal with ordinary fiend race and enemies. But you also need to cultivate the 9 swords of Burial of Heaven to greatly increase your battle prowess to deal with fiend race powerhouses. The 9 swords of Burial of Heaven is the sword art I used before. It's also a sword art created by Kenshin himself. It's the simplest sword art. Although it doesn't look like a fiend race secret art, it doesn't look like a human race magic art either. At least it won't expose your identity." Hearing Burial of Heaven's words, Ji Tianqing's blood immediately boiled. His eyes revealed deep excitement. "Burial of Heaven's 9 swords? That's the sword art you used to repel Marshal Zhua and Tu Ren when I went to save my father?" At that time, Ji Chongkong was being held hostage by 2 fiend marshals, and he went to rescue him alone. At the critical moment, It was Burial of Heaven's soul doppelganger that used an unfathomable and miraculous sword art to save Ji Chongkong and repel the two fiend marshals. From then on, Ji Tianqing deeply remembered Burial of Heaven's sword art. He had long made up his mind to learn the two sword arts from Burial of Heaven after he broke through to the soul-tempering realm. Now, his wish was finally about to come true. Burial of Heaven's 9 swords. It's a supreme sword art created by Kenshin himself. That's great. Just from the name of this sword technique, Ji Tianqing could guess that this was definitely a peerless sword technique that was unparalleled in the world. However, Burial of Heaven said in a low voice, Tianqing, although a soul-tempering realm martial artist can cultivate the 9 swords of Burial of Heaven, you can only cultivate the first and second moves. After all, Kenshin's self-created sword art is a supreme sword art that is half a step from the divine realm. Whether you are in the soul-tempering realm or the martial sage realm in the future, you have to concentrate on cultivating this sword art. The sword art is very profound and mysterious. Even if you have great talent and comprehension, it will be difficult for you to comprehend it in a short period of time, let alone cultivate it. Ji Tianqing was a little disappointed. He quickly asked, Burial of Heaven, how long do you think it will take for me to master the first 2 moves? If it only took 3 to 5 days, he would definitely be willing to find a place to hide and cultivate in seclusion. He would concentrate on comprehending the 9 swords of Burial of Heaven. However, Burial of Heaven said in a serious tone, with your talent and comprehension, plus my guidance and guidance, you will need at least a month to master the first move. As for the second move, you might need 3 months to master it. It might also take half a year. A month? I can only master the first move? Ji Tianqing immediately frowned and his face turned pale. He could not believe that the #1 genius of the human tribe would need a month to master the first move. How profound were the 9 swords of Burial of Heaven? How powerful was it? After a long silence, he sighed helplessly. Say, after all, it is a supreme sword art that is half a step from the divine realm. It will not be easy to master it in a short period of time. Forget it, I will not cultivate this sword art for the time being. I can't waste any more time. I have to rescue Yao Yao as soon as possible. Buried Heaven grunted in response, agreeing with his decision. The night passed quickly. The next morning, Ji Tianqing flew over a snow-covered mountain range and found a medium-sized tribe in the mountains. This demon tribe occupied a few mountains in a radius of 100 miles. There were more than 80,000 demon tribesmen in it. Chapter 1043. The Blood Crystal Tribe was located in the mountains. In the wide valley, there were rows upon rows of houses, which made it look like a small town. The demon clan had hollowed out the mountains and underground around the small town to build many demon caves. Tens of thousands of demon clan civilians lived in those caves. Most of the people in this tribe were from the Blood Demon clan. They were good at using the secret techniques of the Blood Demon sect. Most of the demon clan members were at the mystic realm. There were more than 200 original core realm warriors, and more than 30 sky origin realm warriors. As for the soul refining realm warriors, they could only be found in a large tribe with hundreds of thousands of people. The strongest warrior in the Blood Crystal tribe was the tribal chief, who was at the sky origin realm level 8. Ji Tianqing stayed in the Blood Crystal tribe to ask for information and clues, but the demon clan members didn't recognize him. 3 days later, he used some tricks to get a map of the northern desert from a demon clan leader. With this map, he could understand the terrain of the northern desert and the distribution of forces. This evening, he was walking in the small town. He was about to go to a house in the east of the town to ask for some information. The owner of that house was a merchant who traveled around the northern desert. He was well informed. However, as soon as he walked to a street, he found that many demon clan civilians were rushing to the deserted street. Thousands of devilish citizens hurried toward the mountain behind the small town with expectant looks on their faces. That mountain was the forbidden area of the Blood Crystal tribe. There was a giant demon cave in the mountain, where the tribal chief and the high priest lived. Ji Tianqing saw thousands of civilians rushing to the forbidden area. He was confused. What are they doing? Did something big happen in the Blood Crystal tribe? He hurried to stop a demon clan young man who was in a hurry. He asked in the demon clan's language, "Brother, what are you going to do?" The demon clan young man looked at him with surprise. He asked with a strange tone, "Brother, you're not a member of the Blood Crystal tribe. You must be an outsider, right?" Ji Tianqing nodded and said, "That's right. I'm a member of the Ural tribe. I just came here 2 days ago. I knew it. The demon young man revealed an as expected expression. He lowered his voice and said, Brother, today is the Blood Crystal Tribe's blood sacrifice ceremony. Since the Saintess was conferred the title by His Majesty the Demon Emperor half a year ago, on the last day of every month, she would cast the ancient demon mystic art and send down the holy spring water to our people. Every month on this day, the chieftain and high priest would hold a blood sacrifice ceremony and gather everyone to the primogenitor altar to receive the baptism of the holy spring water. What? Don't tell me your Ula tribe doesn't have these? After saying that, the demon youth looked at him with a puzzled expression. Clearly, he didn't understand. Ji Tianqing waved his hand and hurriedly explained, Our Ula tribe is too small. We are all old, weak, sick, and disabled. How could we have an ancestral altar? Oh, I see. The demon young man looked at him sympathetically, then smiled and said, No wonder you left your homeland and came to our blood crystal tribe. Brother, in a while, follow me to the primogenitor altar and receive the baptism of the holy spring water. After you've been baptized, I guarantee you'll be reborn. Your talent and aptitude will skyrocket, and you'll become an elite expert soon. You can stay in our blood crystal tribe in the future. Only in a big tribe like ours can you have a better future. Ji Tianqing was surprised and asked in disbelief, Is the holy spring water so miraculous? Can it really make a person reborn? The demon youth hurriedly nodded and patted his chest proudly. This is something I've experienced personally. How could I lie to you? 5 months ago, I was only at the 3rd level of the origin core stage. After the baptism of the holy spring water, I've risen to the 5th level of the origin core stage in these 5 months. Not only me, but everyone who's been baptized by the holy spring water has their talent and aptitude stimulated, and their strength is growing rapidly. Moreover, we won't transform on the night of the full moon, and we don't have to endure the torture of the star brilliance fire. The demon youth was still talking excitedly, and his words were filled with excitement and pride. Ji Tianqing's expression had changed, and he thought to himself, so that's how it is. The Devil Clan's bloodline curse has been removed, and they're no longer shackled and tortured. I didn't expect that the thing that helped the Devil Clan remove the curse and shackles was the so-called holy spring water. When he thought up to here, he thought of another question, and he asked, Brother, do you know who the Holy Maiden is? Why haven't I heard that there's a Holy Maiden in our tribe? The demon youth shook his head and said seriously, I haven't heard of her before either. It said that the Holy Maiden was conferred by His Majesty, the Devil Emperor, over half a year ago. However, the Holy Maiden saved us from the pain and torture, and she even stimulated our talent and aptitude. In everyone's heart, the Holy Maiden is the kindest and most benevolent goddess, and her status is only inferior to the first ancestor of our tribe and the current Devil Emperor. Ji Tianqing frowned slightly, and a faint guess appeared in his heart. Half a year ago, wasn't that after Yao Yao was captured by the Devil Emperor? Could it be that the Holy Maiden of the Devil Clan who was suddenly conferred is related to Yao Yao? That's impossible. Yao Yao has the heavenly spirit sacred body, and is most afraid of devil chi entering the body. Moreover, she would never wallow in the mire with the Devil Clan, and would never become the Holy Maiden of the Devil Clan, although he felt that this idea was absurd. Deep in his heart, there was always a trace of worry, afraid that his guess would become the truth. Hey, what's wrong with you? What are you thinking about? The demon youth saw that he was distracted, and waved his hand in front of his eyes. Don't just stand there. Quickly follow me to the primogenitor altar to receive the baptism. We have to hurry. If we're late, we won't be able to get a seat. After saying that, the demon youth didn't care if Ji Tianqing was willing or not, and pulled him to the mountain behind the town. Not long after, the two of them followed the crowd and entered the Devil Cave in the mountain. The spacious and dark Devil Cave could accommodate thousands of people, and there was an ancient altar in the cave. It was the primogenitor altar. When Ji Tianqing and the demon youth arrived, the surroundings of the primogenitor altar were already crowded with people. Those who had yet to enter the Devil Cave could only line up outside the cave and wait. The tribe's chief and high priest were standing on the altar, presiding over the blood sacrifice ceremony. 8 Sky Origin stage experts of the Devil Clan were scattered around the altar, and joined hands to cast a secret technique, causing the primogenitor altar to light up with a dazzling bloody light. After 100 breaths of time, the tribe's chief, high priest, and several experts finished casting the secret technique. The altar released an endless bloody light, which turned into a bloody light pillar that shot into the sky. Above the blue dome of heaven, a mysterious black chi, wrapped in a clear stream, immediately descended to the top of the altar. Chapter 1044. When the mysterious black energy wrapped around the clear stream fell into the altar, the thousands of people in the demon cave showed fanatical gazes. To the many demons, that clear and flawless holy spring water was the holy water that could change their bodies and eliminate their pain. Then, the chief and high priest of the tribe started to cast the spell. The thousands of people around the primogenitor altar all knelt on the ground and bowed towards the primogenitor altar. The pool at the top of the altar surged with bloody light and started to boil like boiling water. The clear and flawless holy spring water immediately turned into billions of water pillars that flew into the air and sprinkled on the people's bodies like drizzling rain. Ji Tianqing saw with his own eyes that dozens of tiny water droplets quickly burrowed into his body after landing on his body. Then, he could clearly feel the holy spring water cleansing his body quickly, removing the impurities in his flesh and bones and strengthening his body. Not only that, the holy spring water also had a faint trace of mysterious power that entered his blood and subtly removed some kind of curse power. As expected, the holy spring water has removed the bloodline curse of the demons and strengthened their bodies and talents. In the past, the demons were cursed and shackled, unable to develop and grow. They could only hide in the northern desert and struggle at death's door until now. Now that the demon emperor has returned and is sitting in the heavenly devil palace, the demons have a saintess that can use the holy spring water to remove the bloodline curse of the demons. The demons are growing stronger day by day, and their ambitions are growing crazily. They will definitely invade the humans, Yao, and water races. Sooner or later, they will conquer the world. Ji Tianqing thought silently. His expression became serious, and deep worry appeared in the depths of his eyes. Soon, the thousands of people around the altar had been baptized by the holy spring water. Everyone had joyful smiles on their faces as they excitedly discussed among themselves. Many demons even broke through their bottlenecks on the spot, and their strength increased again. They excitedly exclaimed. The demonic cave was bustling with noise and excitement. The chief of the tribe, who was tall and strong and wore golden armor, quickly waved the dark gold scepter in his hand and signaled for everyone to quiet down. Waiting until the devil cave quieted down, he announced with a serious tone, "Today is the blood offering ceremony of our blood crystal clan, and also the day our clansmen will be baptized by the holy spring water. Over the past few months, we have been blessed by His Majesty the Devil Emperor and baptized by Her Highness the Saintess. We have been gradually freed from pain and suffering, and we have been reborn. Our blood crystal tribe is getting more and more powerful. We have more and more young geniuses and elite warriors. Today, in addition to the blood sacrifice ceremony, I would like to announce two important things. I just received the news yesterday. The first thing was to follow the orders of His Majesty, the Demon King. Every middle-sized tribe had to select 1,000 warriors and gather at Heaven Moat City. Soon, our army will march to the battlefield and invade the West Wasteland." As the tribal chief's voice fell, the countless demons inside and outside the cave cheered excitedly, all of them eager to give it a try. The tribal chief waved the dark gold scepter and continued to announce. The second thing was to protect the Saintess. His Majesty the Devil Emperor wants to select a team of 100 personal guards for the Saintess. Every tribe can select one young expert to go to Baishan City to participate in the arena competition. Only the top 100 people can become the personal guards of the Saintess. After he announced this news, the demons inside and outside the cave became excited again. Countless young demons were excitedly discussing and cheering, shouting that they wanted to participate in the selection. To the demons, no matter if it was to go to the battlefield to fight or to participate in the arena competition, becoming the personal guards of the Saintess was something that made their blood boil. The demons were warlike, bloodthirsty, cruel, cold-blooded, and cunning. This was their nature. Especially when facing creatures from other clans, the demons' deep-rooted bad habits would be vividly displayed. The tribal chief saw that everyone was so excited, and the noise in the cave was like muffled thunder. He waved the scepter again to signal everyone to be quiet. "Everyone, I would like to remind you. Those who want to sign up for the warrior selection must be at least at the 5th level of the profound comprehension stage. Those who want to sign up for the personal guard selection must be at least at the 5th level of the origin core stage. After the blood sacrifice ceremony ends, those who want to sign up can stay behind. The Grand Priest and I will select carefully." Hearing the tribal chief's words, the hot-blooded crowd calmed down. After all, there were not many people who met the requirements. The thousands of people in the Devil Cave had been baptized by the Saint Spring water and left the Devil Cave one after another. Those who wanted to sign up for the selection stayed outside the Devil Cave and did not leave. The people who lined up outside the Devil Cave rushed into the Devil Cave to be baptized by the Saint Spring water. Ji Tianqing and the demon young man left the cave and stood beside a huge rock outside the cave. They didn't leave. The young demon said excitedly to Ji Tianqing, "I didn't expect that His Majesty the Devil Emperor would finally gather an army to attack the demon clan in the Western Desert. Ha ha ha, I've been conserving my strength for over 10 years. I've long wanted to rush to the battlefield and make a name for myself." Ji Tianqing paid no attention to him, and his heart was filled with worry and rage. But he was in the Devil Clan's tribe and couldn't reveal hatred and killing intent, otherwise, he would be exposed. The young demon didn't notice Chen Shi's abnormality and continued. "I originally wanted to participate in the personal guard selection and become the personal guard of Her Majesty the Holy Maiden. But the requirement to participate in the selection is to be at the 5th level of the Origin Core stage. Even if I can participate, I'll surely be unable to obtain first place. Alas! Her Majesty the Holy Maiden is like a goddess that educates the common people and saves the common people. If I can be selected as her personal guard and be able to see her every day, then how lucky would I be?" Ji Tianqing remained silent and didn't reply, as he was considering something. The young demon glanced at him and frowned. "Brother, what are you thinking about? Could it be that you want to go to the battlefield with me to kill enemies?" Ji Tianqing's thoughts were interrupted, and he shook his head with an expressionless face. "I want to participate in the personal guard selection." "Ha ha ha, brother, you're thinking of the same thing as me." The young demon laughed heartily and patted Chen Shi's shoulder. "Brother, although we've just met and I don't know your strength, I think you're definitely extraordinary. I definitely have no hope of becoming the Holy Maiden's personal guard. I hope you can fulfill my wish and obtain first place in our tribe. After that, you can go to White Mountain City and compete with the geniuses of the various tribes. If you really become the Holy Maiden's personal guard in the future, please don't forget about me." The corner of Ji Tianqing's mouth twitched, and he nodded with a fake smile. In fact, this was a decision he had just made. He suspected that the Devil Clan's Holy Maiden who appeared out of nowhere might be related to Yun Yao. Chapter 1045. The tens of thousands of commoners from the Blood Crystal tribe entered the Devil Cave in batches to receive the baptism of the Holy Spring water. 4 hours later, the blood sacrifice ceremony ended. It was late at night, and the commoners who did not participate in the selection left the Devil Cave. Those who wanted to participate in the selection of warriors and guards stayed in the Devil Cave to wait for the selection by the chieftain and grand priest. There were more than 3,000 Devil Clan's young men standing around the progenitor altar. Everyone was excited and looked at each other with anticipation as they discussed in whispers. The chieftain swept his gaze across the crowd and waved the dark gold scepter in his hand. He said loudly, "Those who want to participate in the selection of the Saintess's guards, follow me to the practice field. Those who want to participate in the selection of warriors, stay here and wait for the grand priest's selection." It was obvious that the grand priest was in charge of the selection of warriors, and the chieftain was in charge of the selection of the Saintess's guards. As soon as he finished speaking, more than 30 Devil Clan's young men who had reached the 5th level of the Origin Core stage walked out of the crowd. Everyone followed the chieftain out of the Devil Cave and headed to the practice field in the town. Ji Tianqing followed the group expressionlessly. He was silent and did not speak as excited as the others. Soon after, everyone arrived at the practice field in the town. The practice field in the Blood Crystal tribe was an open-air plaza with a radius of 300 meters. It was late at night, and the cold wind whistled as snow fell. The practice field was covered with a thick layer of snow. Ji Tianqing and more than 30 Devil Clan's young men stepped on the thick layer of snow and walked into the practice field. The chieftain stood in the middle of the practice field and waved the dark gold scepter, releasing thousands of rays of bloody light that scattered around the practice field. The practice field's defensive formation was instantly activated. A dark red, blood-colored screen of light enveloped the entire training field. The chieftain held the scepter and announced in a solemn tone, "Although everyone is eager to participate in the selection of the Saintess's guards, only one person can win in the end. I'll start the random selection now, and all of you will have to fight in pairs to determine the winner. The loser will be eliminated on the spot, and the winner will continue to challenge until the winner is decided." Hearing the chief's words, the hearts of the 30 or so demon race youths clenched, and their expressions became grave. Over 30 people had participated in the competition, but in the end, only one person had emerged victorious. Such an intense competition not only did not make them cower, but instead stimulated their fighting spirit and fighting spirit. At this moment, the tribal chief took out a piece of parchment with everyone's names written on it. He said in a dignified voice, "The first round, Yi Luqing versus Bak." Two burly demon clan youths in leather armor strode out of the crowd. Their auras were intrepid. The two of them walked to the middle of the martial arts practice field and stood still. They looked at each other and a strong fighting spirit burst out from their bodies. A dark red bloodlight lit up. "Begin!" The tribal chief waved his scepter and shouted in a deep voice. Both of them let out a low roar and immediately erupted with powerful strength. They pounced at each other like fierce tigers, brandishing their fists and legs, causing the sky to be filled with bloody light. Pang pang pang. The two of them did not use any weapons. They only used their fists, kicks, and body movements. They used the Devil Path secret techniques to attack each other. Muffled sounds of collisions and the roars of the two of them erupted and reverberated in the night sky. Unknowingly, the two of them had exchanged more than 20 moves. Their faces were swollen, and their bodies were covered in wounds and blood. However, it was as though they did not feel any pain at all. They fought even more ferociously. Both of them were at the 6th level of the Origin Core stage. After exchanging more than 100 moves, they were still evenly matched. The 30 or so youths in the martial arts practice field watched the battle without blinking. They cheered and shouted for the two of them. Ji Tianqing also stared at the two of them, silently observing their martial arts techniques and secret techniques. Nobody would have thought that he was not observing the battle to watch the battle, but to secretly learn the Devil Clan's martial arts and secret techniques. He had a photographic memory, so after watching the two Devil Clan youths execute their martial arts and secret techniques, he was able to imitate them very quickly. After a few minutes, the two of them in the martial arts practice field had exchanged more than 200 moves before the victor was finally decided. The Devil Clan youth called Yi Luqing was defeated. He walked out of the martial arts practice field covered in blood and left with a gloomy expression. Bahi obtained victory, but it was a difficult victory. His entire body was covered in wounds and blood. The chief took out a piece of parchment and read out the name of another Devil Clan youth. Thus, a tall and strong young man walked out of the crowd and continued to challenge Bahi. Although the two of them were similar in strength, Bahi had already fought a fierce battle and suffered heavy injuries. He had exhausted a lot of his strength. There was no need to doubt the result. The two of them had only exchanged more than 20 moves before He was beaten to the ground and unconscious on the spot. Two Devil Clan youths rushed up and carried the unconscious Bahi away. The chief continued to read out names. Another Devil Clan youth entered the martial arts practice field and challenged the strong young man. As time passed, the commotion in the martial arts practice field spread and attracted countless Devil Clan citizens to watch. 2,000 to 3,000 people surrounded the martial arts practice field and watched the battle through the bloodlight formation. They cheered for the Devil Clan youths. One by one, the Devil Clan youths entered the martial arts practice field to challenge their opponents. Everyone fought fiercely in the martial arts practice field. The violent and raging force blew away the snow on the ground. The dazzling and resplendent bloodlight illuminated the dark night sky. The dark brown rocky ground was also cracked by the shockwaves of the battle, and many holes appeared in it. After 2 hours, more than 20 of the 30-plus Devil Clan youths were eliminated. Only 10 people were left. Finally, the chief read out a name. Oolong. Ji Tianqing was stunned for a moment. He hurriedly walked out of the crowd and came to the center of the martial arts practice field. The opponent he wanted to challenge was a Devil Clan youth who was taller and stronger than him. This person had the strength of an 8th-level Origin Core stage martial artist and had already won 4 rounds consecutively. Oolong? Why have I never heard of your name? The Devil Clan youth raised his hand to wipe away the remaining bloodstains on his face. He looked at Ji Tianqing with a sidelong glance and grinned. His eyes that were crimson red like fire flickered with a violent and bloodthirsty light, causing him to look extremely savage and terrifying. Ji Tianqing was expressionless. He said calmly, "It doesn't matter if you haven't heard of my name before. After tonight, you'll forever remember my name." When they heard his confident and arrogant words, the thousands of Devil Clansmen watching the battle in the surroundings cheered and laughed excitedly. They cheered for him. The Devil Clan youth was instantly enraged. He roared in a low voice and transformed into a dazzling blood light that exploded with an invincible force that charged towards Chen Shi. Bastard! How dare you be so arrogant? Go to hell! In just a blink of an eye, the Devil Clan youth transformed into a huge bloodlight sword that charged towards Ji Tianqing. The spectating Devil Clansmen in the surroundings exclaimed in surprise and cheered. Chapter 1046. Kaboom! A loud, muffled sound rang out. The two bloody swords exploded at the same time, turning into thousands of bloody fragments, splashing in all directions. Suddenly, the bloody light in the training field was overflowing, and the wind was raging. Everyone saw with their own eyes that the demon youth was sent flying by Ji Tianqing's sword. He spat out a mouthful of blood as he was sent flying dozens of feet away. He fell on the ground and rolled a dozen times. After that, the demon youth couldn't get up anymore. Seeing this scene, the thousands of spectators were stunned. They opened their eyes wide, and their faces were full of shock. In the Blood Crystal tribe, the demon youth was a famous young genius, and his fighting power was outstanding. If it wasn't for that, he wouldn't have been able to win 4 matches in a row and defeat 4 young experts so easily. However, no one expected that Ji Tianqing would use only one sword to severely injure him and make him lose his fighting power. How terrifying was Ji Tianqing's power? For a moment, thousands of spectators were looking at Ji Tianqing. Their eyes were full of curiosity and respect. Even the chief of the tribe had a whole new level of respect for him. His eyes were shining as he looked at him. Oolong, if I remember correctly, you don't seem to be a member of our Blood Crystal tribe, right? The chief stood on the high platform in the training field, looking down at Ji Tianqing. He said in a dignified tone. Ji Tianqing performed a demon etiquette and said calmly, "Chief is right. I come from the far south, and I am the #1 genius of the Ula tribe. Our tribe is too small, and I have great ambitions. I don't want to be mediocre, so I left my home and came here a few days ago." After listening to his explanation, the spectators were enlightened. The chief of the tribe wasn't angry. Instead, he was gratified. He nodded and said, "Very good. This is the ideal and ambition of a young genius. In the future, you will be a member of our Blood Crystal tribe. I hope you can win first place and make our Blood Crystal tribe famous." Ji Tianqing cupped his hands and said expressionlessly, "Thank you, Chief. I will do my best." The chief nodded with satisfaction and waved his hand to signal the 2 guards to carry the injured demon youth away. Next, Ji Tianqing stood in the middle of the training field, waiting to accept the challenges of the other demon youths. The chief took out the parchment and read out the name of a young demon. The youth from the demon clan, whose body was as sturdy as a black bear, stepped onto the martial arts practice field with heavy footsteps. His eyes glowed red as he stared at Ji Tianqing. His voice was like a broken gong as he shouted, "Wu Long, you outsider, don't even think about taking first place. The honor belongs to us." After saying that, he rushed towards Ji Tianqing without hesitation, waving his fists and blasting out 8 fistlights condensed from bloodlight. Ji Tianqing's figure was immediately enveloped by the enormous fist radiance. He seemed to be surrounded by danger and was on the verge of death. However, his expression did not change. He calmly raised his arms and fiercely threw out 2 huge bloody fist shadows. Bang bang! In a deafening muffled sound, the fist radiance released by the demon youth exploded on the spot. The 2 fist shadows that Ji Tianqing unleashed, however, erupted with an incomparably violent power that ruthlessly bombarded the demon clan youth. Bang! With a muffled explosion, the demon youth was blown away. He spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. His vision turned black and he fainted. He had also heavily injured his opponent with one move. Moreover, when his opponent used a sword technique, he used a sword technique to counter it. When his opponent used a fist technique, he used a fist technique to counter it. Whether it was his sword technique or his fist technique, they were both very simple and crude. With an incomparably domineering attitude, he crushed his opponent. The thousands of demon commoners watching were once again stunned and let out waves of exclamations and shouts. The chief's expression became even more gratified. His eyes surged with joy as he continued to read out the next name. The 3rd demon youth stepped onto the martial arts practice field and attacked Ji Tianqing with all his might. This person used a secret technique of the demon race. Monstrous bloody light condensed into a demonic dragon and fiercely attacked Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing immediately used what he had learned. He used a secret technique of the demon race that he had secretly learned. He absorbed the bloody light in all directions and condensed it into a demonic dragon that attacked his opponent. Boom! A loud sound shook the sky. The two bloody demonic dragons exploded at the same time, turning into thousands of pieces that scattered on the martial arts practice field. A violent hurricane spread out, shaking the dozen or so demon youths on the martial arts practice field and forcing them to retreat a dozen steps. Ji Tianqing's opponent had already been blown 100 meters away by the bloody demonic dragon. He was severely injured and spat out blood on the ground. He could not even get up. Another insta-kill. The thousands of demon commoners who had witnessed Ji Tianqing's terrifying strength all exclaimed in shock. They were full of respect and admiration for him. Next, the fourth demon youth stepped onto the stage to challenge. This person suffered the same fate as the previous three. He was blasted flying by Ji Tianqing with a single move. He was heavily injured and spat out blood as he fell to the ground. The remaining few demon youths stepped onto the stage in succession and challenged Ji Tianqing. The 5th, 6th, 7th, until the 10th demon youth challenged Ji Tianqing, the result was the same. No matter if it was the 5th level, 8th level, or 9th level of the Origin Core stage, all of the 10 demon youths were heavily injured by Ji Tianqing with a single move. Fortunately, the tribe's patriarch had said long ago that the rules of the competition did not forbid injuries and bleeding, but they could not kill. Otherwise, Ji Tianqing would really want to blast all his opponents into pieces. Because he knew that these demon youths were all ferocious and bloodthirsty. Even if they couldn't become the personal guards of the Saintess, they would still be selected as warriors to rush to the Western Desolation battlefield and slaughter the demon commoners. Not long after, these people would be the executioners that slaughtered the commoners of the human and demon races. Unfortunately, for the sake of concealing his identity and rescuing Yun Yao, he could only restrain his killing intent. After the 10 demon youths were all defeated, there was no one else that stepped onto the stage to challenge. The selection of the Saintess personal guards ended just like that, and Ji Tianqing seized the first place without hesitation. He used a valiant and invincible manner to consecutively defeat 10 opponents, causing everyone's eyeballs to fall out from shock as they roared madly in excitement. The entire martial arts practice grounds was in an uproar as everyone was immersed in enormous shock and disbelief. No one was able to believe that such an abnormal genius would actually appear in a small tribe that was on the verge of annihilation. This was simply too unbelievable. The tribe's patriarch was madly excited as well, as if he'd picked up a rare treasure. He waved his dark gold scepter and continuously shouted a few times before making everyone quiet down. I announce that Oolong has obtained the first place in the selection of the Saintess personal guards this time. Oolong, you have to stay in our blood crystal tribe and wait for 20 days. After 20 days, you have to represent our blood crystal tribe and rush to White Mountain City to participate in the arena competition. Chapter 1047. No matter how excited the chief and the demon citizens were, Ji Tianqing remained expressionless and indifferent. Being in the demon tribe, all he saw was the ugliness and brutality of the demon race. If not for the plan and goal in his heart, he really wanted to start a massacre and kill all these demons. He was able to restrain his murderous aura and did not show any hatred or enmity. This was already very restrained. After the competition for the Saintess's personal guard ended, under the arrangement of the chief, he stayed in a house in the east of the town. It was an old house, and no one had lived in it for a long time. The light in the house was dim and the atmosphere was cold. There were still many traces of fighting. Ji Tianqing saw that the demon citizens did not dare to come close, so he asked around and found out that a disaster had happened in this house before. He did not mind this and felt that it was more convenient. After all, he had to stay here for 20 days before he could go to Baishan City to participate in the arena competition. During this time, he would rather hide in the old house and cultivate. He did not want to be disturbed by other demons. It was late at night. Ji Tianqing settled down in the old house and chatted with the chief for a while. Chief, thank you for arranging a place for me to stay. In these 20 days, I want to cultivate in seclusion and work hard to increase my strength. The chief quickly nodded and said, That's good. You can focus on cultivating here and strive to win glory for our blood crystal tribe. You can cultivate in seclusion without worry. I will inform the others and not let anyone disturb you. After that, the chief left with his people. Ji Tianqing was the only one left in the dark and gloomy mansion. He found a secret room for cultivation. After using his magic power to clean up the dust and stones, he set up 2 defensive formations. Of course, the formations he set up were of the heaven origin level. They could conceal the movements and energy waves in the secret room. And the power he used to set up the formations was the demon race's bloody demonic aura. There were more than 80,000 demons living in an area of a few dozen miles. The demonic aura here was very abundant. It was convenient for him to imitate the demon race's martial arts and secret techniques. At dawn, he took out his main body from the sword world. Then, his soul left Oolong's body and returned to his body. He placed Oolong's body in the sword world and began to cultivate in seclusion. Of course, what he wanted to cultivate wasn't the demon race's martial arts or secret techniques, but the 9 swords of the Burial of Heaven. Burial of Heaven, I have to wait in the Blood Crystal Tribe for 20 days before I can go to White Mountain City. In these 20 days, I want to try to cultivate the 9 swords of the Burial of Heaven. Even if I can't master it, I can at least deepen my understanding of it. Ji Tianqing sat cross-legged in the secret chamber and spoke to Burial of Heaven via soul transmission. Burial of Heaven pondered for a moment, then said in a solemn tone, "That's good. The 9 swords of Burial of Heaven is a Kenshin secret art that you'll have to learn sooner or later. In the future, when you deal with soul refinement realm cultivators, you'll definitely have to use these 9 sword techniques. The earlier you comprehend them, the better. Now I'll teach you the first move of the 9 swords of the Burial of Heaven. Sword draw. This is the foundation of this sword technique, but it's also the sword technique that requires you to practice 1,000,000 times. When you practice it to the limit, you'll be able to connect with God." Hearing Burial of Heaven's words, Ji Tianqing was startled. He frowned and asked, "Burial of Heaven, you said before that this is a half-step God realm sword technique, and it's also a sword technique that's simple. But, the first move is just sword draw. Isn't that too simple? In the mortal world, even body refinement realm cultivators who haven't cultivated true essence would practice sword draw diligently." Burial of Heaven didn't deny his words. He said earnestly, "In today's martial arts world, everyone pursues gorgeous and splendid martial arts moves in order to shock people and show off their strength. Especially the cultivators above the sky origin realm, they can easily break mountains and break rivers, release true essence light that fills the sky, and shatter the earth. But in fact, these are all flashy and impractical actions that waste true essence. The 9 swords of the Burial of Heaven created by Kenshin has reached the realm of returning to simplicity. There's no need for gorgeous scenes and light. He's the god of the sword. He's read all the sword techniques in the world and reached the realm of 10,000 swords. He merged all the complicated and profound sword techniques together to create this most labor-saving, simple, and crude sword technique. But the power of this sword technique is invincible below the god realm. No sword technique can match it." Burial of Heaven's voice was low, and his tone contained unquestionable majesty and dominance. After Ji Tianqing heard this, he had many insights in his heart. He immediately understood what kind of sword technique the 9 swords of the Burial of Heaven was. "So that's how it is. Burial of Heaven, let's start cultivating." Burial of Heaven responded and said in a serious tone, "The first move of the Burial of Heaven's 9 swords, the sword drawing technique, draws the divine sword and splits the mountains and rivers. Wielding the sword, one's heroic spirit soars into the sky." Although the sword drawing technique sounded very simple, Burial of Heaven explained hundreds of words to Ji Tianqing, teaching him the trick of cultivating the sword drawing technique, as well as the route and method of exerting force. Although these were all the basics of sword techniques, Kenshin had merged countless sword techniques in the world into this sword technique. Just one sword drawing technique contained 365 changes and could counter all the sword techniques in the world. Ji Tianqing immersed himself in the sword technique cultivation and focused on comprehending. Soon, he entered a state of selflessness and forgot about the passage of time. About 10 days later, he finally understood the essence of the sword drawing technique and vaguely touched the threshold of this sword technique. Next, he began to circulate his dermic powers according to the chant and simulated the hundreds of changes of the sword drawing technique in his soul. He began to cultivate diligently. Soon, another 8 days passed. On the morning of the 19th day, Ji Tianqing ended his cultivation and opened his eyes. The moment he opened his eyes, an invisible sword light appeared in his eyes. It was dazzling and sharp. Swoosh! That sharp and oppressive invisible sword intent actually lit up the gloomy secret room and tore the air into pieces. Ji Tianqing slowly stood up and looked at the wall with a serious and solemn expression. The dark brown stone wall was very hard and firm. It was also protected by a heavenly origin stage array. He did not use his dermic powers or the broken sword. He slowly raised his right hand and used the sword-drawing technique. Although he did not have a sword in his hand, the sword was in his heart. The invisible sharp sword Qi condensed into an invisible sword. With a wave of his right palm, it was unsheathed at lightning speed. The violent sword Qi that seemed to be able to tear the world apart slashed the wall of the secret room. Crack! At that moment, a crisp explosion sounded. The heavenly origin stage array protecting the secret room was destroyed by the invisible sword Qi and collapsed on the spot. The 2-meter-thick stone wall that was as sturdy as a city wall also collapsed on the spot and turned into a pile of rubble. Not only that, but the power of the invisible sword Qi did not dissipate. It went through the secret room's wall and destroyed 3 houses before dissipating. The dilapidated old house was turned into a pile of rubble on the spot. It was a complete mess. Ji Tianqing slowly retracted his right hand. His eyes shone with joy and his lips curled into a smile. Chapter 1048. Burial of Heaven once said that with Ji Tianqing's talent and comprehension, he would need at least a month to master the first move of Burial of Heaven's 9 swords. But he did not expect that Ji Tianqing would only use 18 days to master the first move. Although Ji Tianqing was just a beginner and had not understood the essence of this sword move, let alone the charm of the sword move. But he had indeed succeeded, and he had successfully used it in one move. This made Burial of Heaven exclaim in amazement and feel that it was unbelievable. It also had a deeper understanding of Ji Tianqing's talent and comprehension. Ji Tianqing did not use his true essence or mana, and only used his sword intent and invisible sword Qi to destroy half of the house. Such terrifying and shocking power was something that even he himself had not expected. Looking at the brick ruins and the ground full of cracks and gullies, he excitedly clenched his fists, his eyes surging with light. As expected of a half-step divine realm sword move. This is just the beginner's first move, I have just mastered it, and it has such terrifying power. I did not even use my true essence. If I use my full strength, the power of this move is unimaginable. Burial of Heaven also felt the same, and said in a serious tone, Tianqing, you are just a beginner. When you practice this move 1,000,000 times, you will be able to understand the charm of the sword move. At that time, no matter if it is a spirit refinement realm expert, 1,000,000 soldiers, or thousands of miles of mountains and rivers, they will not be able to block the power of your move. Ji Tianqing nodded, and showed a look of expectation. At this time, he noticed that there was movement outside the old house, and many demons were looking inside. He knew that the sound of the house collapsing and the walls breaking must have alarmed the demons nearby. So, he quickly took out Black Dragon's body, and sent his divine soul into Black Dragon's body. He had just put his physical body into the sword world when there was a rush of footsteps outside the courtyard. Greetings, Chieftain. Chieftain is here. Let's see what's going on inside. Chief, there was a commotion in this house just now. It seems like someone is fighting. Following the voices of several demon commoners, the tribal chief came to the house with 2 guards. Ji Tianqing hurriedly went up to him and saluted, Chieftain. The tribal chief looked at him expressionlessly and asked in a dignified tone, Oolong, what's going on? I heard from the people that there was a fight just now? Ji Tianqing cupped his hands and replied calmly, Chief, I think everyone has misunderstood. It's because I've been cultivating in seclusion for more than half a month and finally mastered a secret technique. When I came out of seclusion just now, I didn't control my strength, resulting in this result. After listening to his explanation, the tribal chief looked at him suspiciously and asked a few more questions. Ji Tianqing had already thought of an excuse and answered his questions one by one, dispelling the doubts in his heart. Before the tribal chief left, he said in a serious tone, Oolong, tomorrow morning, I will send a commander to escort you to White Mountain City. Get ready. Ji Tianqing frowned and thought for a while. He shook his head and said, Chief, I know how to get to White Mountain City. I can go there alone. There's no need to trouble the commander to escort me. Seeing that the tribal chief was still hesitating and considering this matter, he added, Chieftain, please don't worry. I will rush to White Mountain City as fast as I can. I won't delay the journey. Also, if you give me the document and the token, I will participate in the competition as the #1 genius of the Blood Crystal Tribe. I won't embarrass the Blood Crystal Tribe. After listening to his words, the tribal chief reluctantly agreed. Then,
The tribal chief took out a document and a token from his space ring and waved them in front of him.
Oolong, I can give you this document and token. I can also not send Commander Yu to escort you. But you have to make a blood god oath to be loyal to me and prove your loyalty to the Blood Crystal tribe. No matter if you can become the personal guard of the Saintess or not, don't forget that you are a member of the Blood Crystal tribe. I am the one who gave you this opportunity. The blood god oath was a kind of poison oath that was similar to goo. It was made in the name of the blood god of the demon race. Once the oath was broken, one would have to bear the curse and torture of the bloodline. The tribal chief was obviously afraid that Ji Tianxing would never come back after leaving the Blood Crystal tribe. Only when Ji Tianxing made the blood god oath could he trust Ji Tianxing. This was the nature of the demon race. The most common way of doing things was to be cunning and suspicious, even to their own people. Seeing that Ji Tianxing was silent and was thinking about this matter, the tribal chief patted his shoulder and comforted him. If you lose the competition, you have to come back to the Blood Crystal tribe immediately. I won't treat you badly. I will train you with all my strength. Ji Tianxing nodded, bowed to the sky with an emotionless face, and recited the blood god oath in a low voice. After he had made the oath, an invisible mysterious force descended from the sky, invading his body and blood. No doubt, it was the power of the blood god oath. Once he broke the oath, his body would fester and turn into pus. His blood would dry up, and he would die in agony. However, this body was his own. Even if he had to bear the torture of the oath, it had nothing to do with him. Anyway, the blood god oath couldn't affect his god soul, so it wouldn't harm him. Seeing him make the blood god oath, the tribal chief gave him the document and the token. Then, he laughed contentedly and left. Ji Tianxing put away the document and the token. His eyes were dark as he watched the tribal chief leave. A murderous aura flashed in his eyes. The whole day passed quickly. The Blood Crystal tribe was bustling. People lined the streets to send off more than 1,000 warriors to the Heaven Chasm City to join the war. Those young demon race warriors were full of anticipation and excitement. They were eager to go to the Western Wasteland battlefield and slaughter the monster race people. That night, the mountains were dark, and not a sound could be heard. The tribal chief was in a good mood. He drank with the other leaders until midnight and then went back to his place to rest. However, he didn't know that Ji Tianxing had already sneaked into his place. When he entered the secret chamber and was about to operate his martial art to get rid of the drunkenness, Ji Tianxing suddenly showed up. He was just 3 steps away from the tribal chief, holding a mysterious broken black sword in his hand. Shoo! Before the tribal chief could react, he had already drawn out the sword with lightning speed and slashed out a sharp beam of cold light that seemed to be able to tear the sky apart. Puff! The tribal chief was at the 8th level of the Sky Origin stage. He didn't even have a chance to dodge or defend. His body and head were chopped off by this powerful sword attack. His body was frozen on the spot. From his forehead to the left side of his abdomen, a half-meter-long blood mark appeared. The blood mark was getting bigger and bigger. Dark purple demon blood gushed out. The tribal chief's body was cut into 2 halves, falling on the ground powerlessly. Ji Tianxing put away the broken sword and expressionlessly looked at the tribal chief's body on the ground. Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. I have just mastered the sword drawing style. The first one I kill is you. It is your honor. He murmured and then casually shot out a red fire, covering the tribal chief's body and the demon blood on the ground. Suddenly, the tribal chief's body and blood were burning up. Soon, they were burned into ashes. All of this happened in the secret chamber. There was no loud noise, no sound, and no movement. Nobody would have thought that the tribal chief of the Blood Crystal tribe would die in the secret chamber just like that. Chapter 1049. Ji Tianxing had an irreconcilable enmity with the demons. No matter who he killed, it was natural for him to do so. Moreover, the chief of the tribe had forced him to swear the blood god oath. In this way, the chief had gotten what he wanted. He had successfully killed himself. Ji Tianxing's actions were very secretive. From the time he snuck into the chief's residence to the time he killed the chief, no one was alerted. 5 days after he left the Blood Crystal tribe, the high priest and the commanders of the Blood Crystal tribe found out that the chief was missing. 8 days later, after all kinds of investigations and searches, they confirmed that the chief was dead. However, the chief had died without a complete corpse. He didn't leave any clues. The cause of his death became a huge mystery that couldn't be solved for a long time. Of course, no one would suspect Ji Tianqing. On the evening of the 10th day, Ji Tianqing crossed millions of miles of mountains and ice fields and successfully arrived at White Mountain City. The so-called White Mountain City lived up to its name. This was an ancient and majestic city located in the heart of the northern desert, among the mountains. Hundreds of thousands of demons gathered in the city with a radius of 100 miles. Many of them were experts and warriors from different tribes. The city was covered in snow all year round, making it look like a city of ice and snow. The few mountains outside the city were also covered in thick snow. All that could be seen was a blazing white. This was how White Mountain City got its name. After arriving at White Mountain City, he wasn't far from the holy land of the demons, the Heavenly Devil Palace. It would take him about 10 days of travel. Within a radius of 1,000,000 miles, White Mountain City was not only a stronghold, but also a prosperous city in the heart of the northern desert. It was also the center of information in the northern desert. When Ji Tianqing arrived at White Mountain City, it was the time when the cold wind was blowing and snow was falling. Thick snow and ice were piled up outside the southern city gate. The strong wind rolled up the snow and ice, hitting the city wall. There were more than 20 guards in black iron armor guarding the city gate. They were all experts of the Origin Core realm. Ji Tianqing took out the documents and tokens of the Blood Crystal tribe. After giving them to the guards to check, he entered the city without a hitch. There were many wide streets in the city, and countless houses and buildings were built in a rough style. Of course, the streets and alleys in the city were all covered in ice and snow. There were very few pedestrians on the streets, so it was impossible to see the appearance of the city. Ji Tianqing stepped on the thick snow and walked along the main street to the center of the city. He wanted to find an inn to stay at. Coincidentally, there was an inn 100 steps away from him at the end of the street. Although the doors and windows of the inn were tightly shut, the dim gemstone lamp outside was still lit, and the inn was bustling with people. When he pushed open the door of the inn and stood at the entrance of the lobby, the biting cold wind mixed with snow and ice crystals rushed into the lobby of the inn. The noisy hall immediately quieted down. Everyone turned their heads to look at the door. After looking at Ji Tianqing for a while, they withdrew their gazes and continued to drink and chat. Only a few people near the door glared at him unhappily or cursed him a few times. Ji Tianqing closed the door, shook off the snow on his body, and stepped into the lobby. The lobby was very spacious. There were more than 20 tables, and all of them were filled with tall and strong demon warriors. On the tables in front of them, there were jars of earth spirit wine, and a few stacks of crude jerky and dried fruits. There was no other way. The resources of the northern desert were too poor. There were no flowers, plants, vegetables, birds, or animals. The food that the demon race could eat were mostly living things like beetles, rats, snakes, and ants that came from underground. In such a cold and snowy season, it was already the greatest happiness and enjoyment for these people to gather in the taverns and inns, drink a few bowls of strong earthly spirit wine, and eat a few pieces of dried gopher meat and dried fruits. Ji Tianqing saw an empty table in the corner, so he walked over and sat down. The waiter came to greet him. He took out 10 blood crystals and booked a room, and ordered a pot of hot earth spirit wine. Even though the earth spirit wine was very bad and tasted worse than the strong wine of the mortal world, he quietly sipped it. Not for anything else, he just wanted to stay in the hall for a while longer, listen to the other demons talk loudly, and gather some information from them. Before he drank half a bowl of wine, he heard the clamor of the crowd, mixed with the word saintess and arena competition. Obviously, half of the demon warriors gathered in the lobby were from different tribes, and they had come to White Mountain City to participate in the arena competition. The other half were the residents of White Mountain City, and they were also paying attention to and discussing this matter. At this time, the door of the lobby opened again. 2 young demons, one male and one female, wearing black armor and a blood-red cloak, walked into the lobby side by side. The male was dark, and his face was upright. He had a simple and honest aura, and his body was as strong as a bear. The female was tall and fit. Her skin was light purple, and her purple hair reached her waist. Their eyes swept across the lobby and finally landed on Ji Tianqing. The simple and honest young man looked at the woman next to him and asked in a low voice, "Ah Luo, there's only one table that's empty. Shall we squeeze with that guy?" The purple-haired woman called Ah Luo nodded and said expressionlessly, "It's fine if we squeeze. De Xiong, go and tell him." As they spoke, they walked up to Ji Tianqing and stood in front of him. De Xiong nodded at Ji Tianqing and said in a low, muffled voice, "Brother, There are no more seats in the lobby. Can we sit down and rest for a while? Ji Tianqing glanced at them and guessed the identity of the young man and woman. Both of them were around 30 years old, and their strength was at the 7th or 8th level origin core stage. Moreover, both of them looked travel-worn, so they must have rushed to White Mountain City from some tribe. Both of them were probably here to participate in the Saintess's personal guard selection. After De Xiong and Luo sat down, they also ordered 2 jars of wine and dried meat. They ate and drank to recover their strength. Ji Tianqing sipped his wine expressionlessly, but his attention was focused on the demons at the tables nearby as he listened to their discussion. A young demon with a full beard was probably drunk. His face was flushed as he spoke loudly. I heard that the arena competition 5 days later will be held in the square in the city. It said that the Devil King has asked the Heaven Barbaric Devil Marshal to supervise the selection of Her Highness's personal guard selection. On the day of the competition, it said that the Heaven Barbaric Devil Marshal will be there personally to supervise the competition. The Heaven Barbaric Devil Marshal is the 3rd Devil Marshal of our clan. His name is well known in the Northern Desert. It said that the Heaven Barbaric Devil Marshal was born with a heroic appearance. He was like the reincarnation of an ancient god with 4 wings and 6 arms. Chapter 1050. Hearing the young demon's words, Ji Tianqing frowned slightly, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. The Heaven Barbaric Demonic Commander? It's actually him who's personally overseeing the arena competition? He was familiar with the Heaven Barbaric Demonic Commander. He even hated him to the core. When he married Yunyao and brought Yunyao back to Middle State City, the Heaven Barbaric Demonic Commander had followed the Demon King to kidnap Yunyao. When he thought of the past, his heart was filled with anger and killing intent. At the same time, he was worried about one thing. The Heaven Barbaric Demonic Commander's strength has reached LV6 of the soul refining stage. He's familiar with me. If he recognizes the aura of my spiritual soul during the arena competition, the consequences will be unimaginable. Just as he was worrying about this matter, a young man from the Demon Clan raised his glass and said with a smile, I heard from the grapevine that there are at least 400 to 500 people who came to White Mountain City to participate in the arena tournament. Everyone wants to become the personal guard of Her Highness the Saintess. There were also many people who came for the Saintess. They wanted to catch a glimpse of her beauty. It's a pity that only 100 people can do it. Most of them will be eliminated. I'm afraid they won't be able to see the Saint Lady for the rest of their lives. A young man from the Demon Clan at another table whispered. It said that the Saint Lady is not one of us. Those who have seen her said that she is very ugly. She is short and skinny. Her skin is frighteningly white. She always wears a white dress and covers her face with a cloak and a veil. Sigh. Many people don't know about this. They think that the Saint Lady is so beautiful that they want to see her face. How ridiculous and pitiful. Although his voice was not loud, everyone in the hall had the strength of the origin core realm. Naturally, they heard him clearly. Ji Tianqing frowned slightly. A strange light flashed in his eyes. He was more certain of his guess. The surrounding crowd also began to whisper to each other. Yes, I've also heard about this. I didn't expect so many people to not know about it. Sigh. I thought the Saint Lady would be a rare beauty. I didn't expect her to be so ugly. Oh my God. I'd rather not hear this news. You've destroyed my beautiful fantasy. You're too despicable. That's strange. Since the Saintess is not a subject of our clan, why did the Demon Emperor confer her the title of Saintess? Skinny, short, and pale. Such an ugly woman. She's even worse than the most ordinary woman in our clan. Even that woman over there is 10 times more beautiful than the Saintess, right? As the demon youth spoke, his eyes scanned the hall and finally landed on Luo. There were dozens of young devils sitting in the main hall of the inn, but Luo was the only woman. The young devil naturally wanted to compare her. Instantly, everyone turned to look at Luo, sizing her up from head to toe and commenting on her. Luo's face immediately turned cold. Her eyes flashed with anger as she glared fiercely at the demon youth. Filled with anger, she slammed the table and stood up. Looking at the people whispering to each other, she angrily scolded, "You bunch of despicable bastards! Shameless and disgusting!" Regardless of the Saintess' status and appearance, she's still the Saintess conferred by the Demon Emperor. How dare you bastards criticize her? Moreover, The Saintess uses a secret technique every month to send the Saintess spring rain to all the tribes, helping our hundreds of millions of people to be reborn and relieving their pain. Do you know how kind and noble the Saintess is? She's like a reincarnated goddess, the savior of our hundreds of millions of people. But you bunch of hypocritical and disgusting bastards, you've accepted the Saintess grace and been baptized by the Saintess spring water, yet you still criticize her behind her back. Do you have any shame? Luo's temper was fiery, and her tone was full of righteous indignation and contempt. Her words were like a heavy hammer that hammered everyone in the hall into a daze.
Everyone turned their heads and stared at her in a daze.
The hall fell silent, so quiet that even a pin drop could be heard. After a moment, everyone came to their senses.
Most of them looked ashamed and hurriedly lowered their heads to drink, not daring to say more.
A young man from the Devil Clan stood up and walked toward Luo with a sneer on his face. This person was the one who said the Saintess was ugly. He was about 30 years old and possessed strength at the 9th level of the Origin Core stage. He walked up to Ji Tianqing and stood next to him.
He looked down at Luo and sneered.
Little girl, we're just chatting. Why are you so agitated? Who is the Saintess to you? What does she have to do with you? Countless people know the Saintess is ugly, and everyone is talking about it, but the Demon Emperor isn't angry. We're just chatting casually. What right do you have to insult us in public? Apologize to me right now. Otherwise, I won't show you any mercy. I'll make you crawl out of here. As he spoke, the young man from the Devil Clan cracked his neck and clenched his fists. His entire body was surging with rage. Luo was furious. Her eyes were burning with fury, and she instinctively wanted to punch him.
Big Bear, who was sitting next to her, stood up with a swoosh and rushed in front of her in a flash.
Bastard, you're seeking death! Big Bear shouted angrily.
He swung his fists at the young man from the Devil Clan with all his might.
Humph! You overestimate yourself. The young man from the Devil Clan snorted disdainfully. Dense black energy surged in his hands as he clenched his fists and smashed them toward Big Bear. Many sharp spikes emerged from his fists, and his fingers turned into sharp black claws, with black fingernails growing out of them. Obviously, this young man from the Devil Clan was from the Azura clan. He was best at close combat and had extraordinary strength. Boom! The two people's fists fiercely collided with each other, and a loud muffled sound rang out. The explosive and violent energy spread out in all directions. The blast of energy swept out, shattering the tables and chairs in the surroundings. Everyone fell to the ground. Everyone scrambled to their feet and quickly retreated to the side to watch the show. Big Bear was also sent flying by the young man from the Azura clan. He crashed into the wall, creating a big hole in the dark brown stone wall. Countless pieces of rubble flew out. When Big Bear crawled out of the rubble, he was already panting. Both of his arms were broken and hung limply at his sides. His fists were full of holes and bleeding profusely. Luo cried out angrily and worriedly. She also threw her fists at the young man from the Azura clan. However, the young man from the Azura clan sneered contemptuously. He exploded with even more strength and sent Luo flying with a punch. Plop! Luo crashed into the wall, creating a big hole in it. She fell beside Big Bear and spat out blood. Chapter 1051. The lobby was in a mess. Dozens of young demons retreated to the sides and formed a circle, waiting to watch a good show. The demon race worshipped martial arts, and its people were tough and bloodthirsty. They were not only cruel to outsiders, but also to their own people. Moreover, the demon race had a loose legal system. Killing and robbing were common occurrences. Even in White Mountain City, where the law was relatively strict, private fights were not forbidden. As long as no one died, even the city lord's mansion would not interfere. As for the inn, they would certainly not interfere in this matter. As long as the two sides settled their grudges, someone would compensate the inn for its loss. Big Bear and Luo stood side by side in the corner. Both were injured, and they glared at the young Shura man. The young Shura man was surrounded by black smoke. Black scales and barbs could be vaguely seen on his skin and neck, showing the characteristics of the Shura race. Dozens of spectators stood around, commenting and commenting, occasionally bursting into laughter. However, everyone's eyes fell on the corner, and they looked at Ji Tianqing in confusion and surprise. Because he was sitting between the young Shura man, Big Bear, and Luo.
Even though a fierce battle had just taken place beside him, he still sat on the bench without moving. The table, wine jar, and wine bowl in front of him were all intact. Even his expression and movements were the same as before. He was still holding the wine bowl expressionlessly, sipping the wine in the bowl. His expression was indifferent, as if he did not care about anything. Seeing this, the onlookers were surprised and whispered to each other. The young Shuraman frowned and squinted at Ji Tianqing. He shouted in a deep voice, "Boy, if you know what's good for you, get out of here." Luo and Big Bear hurriedly winked at Ji Tianqing, indicating that he should not get involved in this mess. But Ji Tianqing ignored them and continued to drink slowly. He said coldly, "I'll give you a chance to live. Break one of your arms and kneel down to apologize. Then you can get out of here." There was no emotion in his cold voice, but there was also an unquestionable majesty and dominance. Everyone in the hall was stunned. Their eyes were filled with disbelief as they stared at Ji Tianqing with burning eyes. Many people sucked in a breath of cold air and muttered in shock. "Hiss! Who is this guy? How dare you be so arrogant? So domineering. This guy must be an expert, right? Expert? This guy came in a long time ago. I couldn't tell at all. Could it be that this is a hidden expert? I don't think so. He's probably a guy from a small tribe who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth." The Shura youth's face darkened. He was so angry that his whole body trembled, and the veins on his forehead bulged. "Break one of my arms and kneel down to apologize?" With a twisted face, he scolded with a deep voice, "Little bastard, do you know who I am? How dare you be so arrogant?" As he spoke, a thick black fog surged around his body. Black bone wings appeared on his shoulders, and a row of sharp barbs appeared on his spine. This was the racial characteristic of the Shura tribe when they were enraged or when they wanted to kill their enemies with all their might. "Little bastard, I'm going to destroy you first," the Shura youth shouted. He raised his arms, which were covered with sharp barbs, and smashed them toward Ji Tianqing's head with all his might. The power of this attack was enough to create a crater with a radius of 100 meters on the ground. When everyone felt the power of this attack, they were shocked and hurriedly retreated. Luo and Xiong were also very worried. They quickly shouted for Xueqi to stop. Ji Tianqing's expression did not change. He still looked indifferent. He raised his left hand lightly and punched at the Shura youth. Boom! The fist radiance, which was condensed by blood-red brilliance, hit the Shura youth's arms with a dull thud. Instantly, the Shura youth was sent flying. He slammed into the wall, creating a hole in the thick wall. Countless bricks and stones collapsed and buried him immediately. However, he fell into the rubble. His arms were shattered, and he spat out blood. He struggled a few times but could not get up. A gust of strong wind blew into the hall through the hole, causing everyone to shiver in fear. Of course, it was not the wind and snow that made them feel cold. Everyone stared at Ji Tianqing with awe and fear in their eyes. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly. De Xiong and Luo had been sent flying by the Shura youth with a single punch. The Shura clan's close combat ability was so strong that it made one's hair stand on end. When Ji Tianqing punched the Shura youth, everyone was laughing in their hearts. They were laughing at him for overestimating himself. But now, the result made everyone's jaws drop. They could not believe it. At this time, Ji Tianqing stood up slowly and walked toward the Shura youth. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The sound of footsteps was like a drum, beating everyone's hearts. Everyone's hearts were in their throats. Everyone stared at Ji Tianqing. What was he going to do? What would happen to the Shura youth? Ji Tianqing walked to the hole in the wall and stopped in front of the Shura youth. He looked down at the Shura youth with a cold expression. "You insulted the saintess. Unforgivable. Originally, you could have left after breaking one of your arms and kneeling down to apologize. But now, you'll have to double the punishment." As soon as he finished speaking, he lifted his right foot and stomped on the Shura youth's left shoulder with the weight of a mountain. Crack! With the crisp sound of bones breaking, the Shura youth's left shoulder was crushed. His left arm was broken. Then, Ji Tianqing raised his foot and stepped on his right shoulder. Crack! The Shura youth's right shoulder was also crushed. His right arm was broken. The heart-wrenching pain made him tremble all over. He screamed in a hoarse voice. "Ah! Bastard! You're dead! I'll kill you! I'll kill you!" Ji Tianqing glanced at him coldly and said indifferently, You're too noisy." With that, he kicked the Shura youth away. Bam! The Shura youth crashed through the wall and flew more than 30 meters away. He landed on the street outside the inn and fell into the thick snow. He had fainted on the spot. He lay motionless in the snow. He was really dead. In the lobby, Ji Tianqing sat down in the corner with a calm expression. It was as if nothing had happened. That shocking and awe-inspiring scene was as simple as drinking water to him. After sitting down, he glanced at the innkeeper in the crowd and pointed at De Xiong and Ah Luo. Ask them for the inn's compensation. Then, he lowered his head and continued drinking. He looked cool and indifferent. Chapter 1052. After watching the show, many devils quietly left the inn for fear of getting into trouble. In a short while, more than half of the people in the lobby were gone. The remaining devil clan members were all drinking wine in silence. They were talking to each other through voice transmission. They didn't dare to make any noise. The sturdy and honest bear went to discuss the compensation with the innkeeper. Ah Luo stared at Ji Tianqing for a while, hesitated for a moment, then walked up to him and stood still. "Brother, thank you for your help just now." She bowed to Ji Tianqing and thanked him sincerely. Ji Tianqing raised his eyelids, glanced at her, and said indifferently, "It's nothing. Don't mention it." Ah Luo was stunned for a moment, and then her eyes showed admiration. She said, "Brother, you're really noble. You must be a hidden master who doesn't care about fame and fortune, right?" Ji Tianqing didn't answer and didn't want to pay attention to her. Anyway, he had gotten the information he wanted, so he didn't want to be entangled with others. He got up and was about to leave. At this time, Bear had finished dealing with the compensation. He hurried to block his way and thanked him with a salute. "Brother, thank you for your help. I'm very grateful." Ji Tianqing didn't say anything. He ignored them and walked to the second floor of the inn to rest in his room. At this time, Bear hesitated for a moment and shouted, "Brother, please wait." Ji Tianqing stopped and turned to look at him. "What's the matter?" Bear scratched his head and said hesitantly, "Brother, I just heard them talking about the guy whose arms were broken by you. He seems to be the son of a noble in the city. I know you're powerful and won't be afraid of their revenge. But a powerful dragon can't defeat a local snake. If they come to you for revenge, it'll be troublesome." Ji Tianqing understood what he meant. He nodded and turned to walk through the lobby toward the gate. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared in the wind and snow outside the gate. Bear and Ah Luo looked at each other and hurriedly left the inn to find another place to stay. After this incident, they couldn't stay in the inn and could only find a place to hide. The demon race had always been cold and heartless. They would not meddle in other people's business and care about the life and death of others. If Ji Tianqing hadn't saved them, Bear wouldn't have warned Ji Tianqing. In short, in this barren land of suffering, the most worthless thing was life. Ji Tianqing braved the wind and snow to leave the inn. He found an old house in the east of the city and quietly settled down. Just as De Xiong had said, he wasn't afraid of the Shura clan youth's revenge. He just didn't want to cause any more trouble and delay the arena competition. After settling down in the old house, he stayed in his room and meditated in silence. Time passed quietly. Day after day passed. In these 4 days, White Mountain City became more and more lively. Many demon clan youths from different tribes entered White Mountain City. There were also several city guard troops and a group of guards from influential families, constantly searching for Ji Tianqing's whereabouts. Obviously, these people were sent by the Shura clan youth to seek revenge on Ji Tianqing. 4 days passed in the blink of an eye. Early in the morning of the 5th day, the sky was still gloomy. A bone-chilling wind blew and snow fell like goose feathers. All the people in the city rushed to the square in the center of the city. They gathered around the square, waiting to watch the show. Today was the day of the arena competition. Young geniuses from different tribes would compete in martial arts under the eyes of thousands of people. The last 100 people would be chosen as the Saint's personal guards. Soon, 20 to 30,000 people of the demon clan gathered in the square, which was 1,000 meters in radius. In the center of the square, there was a tall arena with a radius of 100 meters. The arena was made of dark brown rock, surrounded by a circle of stone pillars and fences. 4 ferocious demon god statues stood in the 4 corners. More than 80 elite guards of the city lord's mansion stood motionless around the arena, wearing black armor and holding long spears.
No one dared to approach the arena. It didn't take long for the young demons from the various tribes to arrive at the square. About 600 young geniuses were scattered among the crowd. They all looked at the arena with complicated expressions, thinking silently. Snow fell from the sky, and the atmosphere in the arena was cold and somber. Today's arena competition was very fierce. Even though these young demons were the geniuses of their tribes, they could not help but feel nervous and worried in the face of so many strong enemies. In the northwest corner of the square, there was a young demon surrounded by 4 guards. This person's face was injured, and his arms were drooping weakly. His arms were stiff like wooden sticks, and he could not move them at all. He looked around angrily. His sharp eyes swept across the crowd, as if he was searching for something. A guard beside him hurriedly advised, "Young Master Arnold, your body is more important. Go back to the mansion and heal your injuries. You must not participate in today's arena competition. This is the general's order." The young Shura clan youth named Arnold glared at the guard angrily and said in a low voice, "Nonsense. I'm injured like this. How can I participate in the competition? I'm looking for that bastard called Wu Long. He dared to break my arms. Today, I must find him and chop him into pieces. Humph. He dares to fight with me. If I can find his name and information from the city guards, I can definitely find him." Another guard in black tried to persuade him in a low voice. "Young Master Arnold, that man injured you. Perhaps he has already escaped from Baishan City." Arnold curled his lips and sneered, "Humph. My father has already informed the city guard commander that guards the city gate. How can that kid escape from the White Mountain City? He can't escape even if he has wings. Moreover, my father has asked the city guard commander to investigate that kid. His name is Wu Long, and he comes from the Blood Crystal tribe. He came here to participate in the arena competition. Today, he will definitely show up. I will find him soon." The guard in black whispered, "Young Master Arnold, this is the square in the city. Tens of thousands of people are watching. Don't act rashly. Moreover, if you kill that kid in front of everyone, it will affect the arena competition. Then there will be no end to it. I heard that the Heaven Barbarian Demon Commander will come personally. You must be patient." Arnold showed a cruel smile and said proudly, "Of course, I know that. Do I need you to remind me? I have already arranged for Mu Ren to take my place in the arena competition. When the time comes, my opponent will be Wu Long. Hee. I will wait for a good show. I will watch Mu Ren break all the bones in that kid's body and turn him into a soft-footed worm." The 4 guards heard him and sneered proudly. They hurriedly flattered him. "Young Master Arnold is indeed wise. This is a great plan. Hee. Mu Ren is the most elite guard commander of the general's house. He is at the 6th level of Sky Origin stage. That kid will die a horrible death." Chapter 1053. When Ji Tianqing arrived at the square in the middle of the city, he kept a low profile and nobody knew about him. He had arrived rather late. 30 to 40,000 demon commoners had already gathered in the plaza. It was so packed that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Most of the hundreds of geniuses from different tribes who were going to participate in the competition had arrived at the square and were waiting in the crowd. After a while, 2 middle-aged demon men, who were well-dressed and powerful, stepped onto the arena in the middle of the square. The leading burly man was wearing a long robe with golden threads and a square crown inlaid with gems. He was holding a 1-meter-long scepter in his hand. When he stepped onto the arena, all the civilians in the square bowed to him and shouted, "Greetings, Governor!" The middle-aged man behind the White Mountain City Lord was dressed in dark purple armor and had a white beard. He was tall and strong, with an iron-blooded murderous aura around him. It was obvious that he was an experienced general. The civilians in the square bowed again and shouted, "Greetings, General Galay." Apparently, he was one of the most powerful people in White Mountain City, General Galay of the Demon Army. They were about the same level. One was at Sky Origin Stage LV7, while the other was at Sky Origin Stage LV8. However, they were already the most powerful people in White Mountain City. After the governor and General Galay stepped onto the arena, they stood still in the middle of the arena. The governor said in a loud voice, "Everyone, His Majesty the Demon King is going to select the personal guards for Her Highness the Saintess. Today, the result will be decided in White Mountain City. This is my honor,
and also the honor of White Mountain City. In a while, everyone would see more than 600 young geniuses from various tribes battling it out in the arena. Today, we are honored to welcome our third Demon General, Lord Sky Barbarian Demon General. As the governor finished speaking, the tens of thousands of demon civilians in the square burst into cheers and shouts. General Galay stepped forward and gestured for the crowd to be quiet. He said in a loud voice, "Lord Sky Barbarian Demon General will be in charge of today's competition. The governor will be in charge and I will be the supervisor. Now, please welcome the arrival of the Sky Barbarian Demon General." After that, General Galay and the mayor of White Mountain City stood respectfully on the arena. They turned to look towards the north and bowed to pay their respects. The tens of thousands of people in the square also bowed towards the north. Under everyone's gaze, a thick black cloud flew over from the northern sky. The demonic clouds condensed into a huge demonic face. It flew to the edge of the square as fast as lightning and stopped there. Shwa! The devilish cloud transformed into a devilish man with 4 wings and 6 arms. He was over 10 feet tall and had 4 wings and 6 arms. He was tall and sturdy like a bear. There was a single eye on his forehead, making him look extremely ferocious and terrifying. He looked down condescendingly at the tens of thousands of demons in the square. Black mist and demonic chi surged all over his body, exuding a majestic and domineering air. Tens of thousands of demon commoners in the square all looked extremely fanatical as they shouted, "Welcome, Lord Heaven Barbarian Demon General." Ji Tianqing was squeezed into the crowd and was inconspicuous. He looked up at the Sky Barbarian Demon General silently. His face was expressionless and his eyes were gloomy. Dense killing intent surged in his heart. After half a year, the Sky Barbarian Demon General still looked the same as before. His aura was even more vigorous and his strength had increased. Ji Tianqing secretly guessed that the change in strength of the Sky Barbarian Demon General probably had something to do with the baptism of the holy spring water. At this moment, the Sky Barbarian Demon General said in a thunderous voice, "Ben Shui will be personally overseeing the arena competition today. I guarantee that it will be fair. I hope that everyone will perform well and defeat the strong opponent." After saying that, he landed on a tall tower at the edge of the square. The black stone tower that was 200 feet tall was the resting place that the mayor's residence had arranged for the Sky Barbarian Demon General. Sitting in the hall on the top floor of the stone tower, one could clearly see the entire square and everything in it. The Sky Barbarian Demon General flew into the tower and entered the hall on the top floor. There were already dishes and young demon girls in the hall for the Sky Barbarian Demon General to enjoy and play. However, the tens of thousands of people in the square did not know that. They thought that the Sky Barbarian Demon General was overseeing everything in the square from the top of the tower. Everyone's blood was boiling as they discussed excitedly. Their admiration for the Sky Barbarian Demon General was like a surging river. After a long while, the lively and noisy atmosphere finally calmed down. As the host of the arena competition, the mayor of White Mountain City began to announce the rules of the competition. He looked solemn as he said in a solemn and dignified tone, "In this arena competition, the opponents will be decided by drawing lots. The winner will advance and the loser will be eliminated. In the end, the top 100 winners will be selected as the personal guards of the Saintess. During the arena competition, all weapons are allowed, but pets and other external forces are not allowed. Injuries are not prohibited, but no deaths are allowed. When the opponent admits defeat, you must stop attacking immediately. Otherwise, you will be punished by General Galay." With that, the mayor of White Mountain City waved his hand and took out 660 white jade slips, which floated in the air. "General Galay, please draw lots to decide your opponents." General Galay did not hesitate. He waved his hand and shot out hundreds of black lights, which divided the 660 jade slips into 330 pieces. There were 2 jade slips in each piece, which recorded the names and identity information of the 2 young demons. At the same time, they would also become opponents. General Galay handed the 330 jade slips to the mayor of White Mountain City. The mayor of White Mountain City took out a jade slip at random, opened the 2 jade slips, and read out 2 names. The first round of the competition starts now. The first round, Yu Wenshan versus Yang Jihua. The 2 young demons were obviously stunned when their names were called out. Then, they quickly ran into the arena with anxious hearts. The 2 of them came to the arena and stood 100 feet away from each other. They looked at each other with hostility and strong fighting spirit. The mayor of White Mountain City and General Galay retreated to the corner of the arena, assuming a posture of watching and supervising the battle. Following General Galay's loud shout, "Start!" the two youths of the demon clan on the arena immediately unleashed their full power, displaying their secret techniques and launching a fierce attack against each other. Both of them had the strength of the 6th level of the Origin Core stage. Their bodies were surging with black gas and bloody light, and their fighting spirit was soaring. Their bodies turned into afterimages as they shuttled back and forth on the arena, constantly attacking and killing each other. Bang, 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 bang. The sound of collision was endless, and the muffled sound of rumbling echoed in the sky. The tens of thousands of people in the square stared at the arena without blinking. They were dazzled by the scene, and they kept cheering and applauding. Ji Tianxing, on the other hand, stood quietly in the crowd without any expression on his face. Chapter 1054. In less than 15 minutes, the outcome of the battle between the two demon youths was decided. Both of them had suffered heavy injuries. Their bodies were dripping with blood, and they looked miserable. Their strength was also very weak. The defeated demon youth, in particular, had both his legs and one of his arms broken. He was moaning in pain as he lay on the arena. However, no one sympathized with the loser. Everyone was cheering for the winner. After the White Mountain City governor announced the outcome, the winner successfully advanced to the next round. He stepped down from the arena to recuperate. The heavily injured loser gritted his teeth and struggled to get up. He carried a heart full of humiliation and disappointment as he left the arena with a gloomy expression. Then, the White Mountain City governor took out 2 more jade slips and announced 2 more names. The second round began. Another 2 demon youths stepped into the arena and started a fierce battle. This battle took even less time. It only took a short 100 breaths of time to determine the victor. Then, the 3rd round, the 4th round, and the 5th round began. Time passed quietly. The youths of the Devil Clan fighting in the arena changed one pair after another. Almost every battle was cruel and bloody. The 2 young demons would try their best and use all kinds of methods to defeat each other. Muffled sounds of collisions and explosions rang out continuously, reverberating in the air above the square. A full 6 hours passed. Ji Tianxing had observed the fight between over 100 pairs of Devil Clan young men, and had successfully learned dozens of martial arts moves and secret techniques. He only needed to use the demon power in Oolong's body to perform these moves and secret skills. Then, he could unleash the power of a Sky Origin Realm expert. This was enough for him to defeat all the contestants. After all, only a few of the 600 demon youths had reached the Sky Origin Realm. He did not want to be the first or the top few. He only wanted to be in the top 100 and become the Saint's personal guard. If his performance was too outstanding, he would attract the attention of the Heaven Barbarian Demon Commander. Soon, more than 10 pairs of demon youths stepped into the arena and the outcome was decided. Finally, it was Ji Tianxing's turn. The mayor of White Mountain City announced loudly, the 198th match, Oolong vs. Hongshan. Along with his voice falling, a burly man that was almost 6 m tall and was as tall as a mountain of flesh walked out of the crowd, and he ascended the arena with extremely heavy footsteps. This person's body was huge and covered with bulging muscles. He looked like a mutated beast. He was bare-chested and only had a loose animal skin skirt around his waist. He carried 2 pitch-black iron hammers on his back. This person was Ji Tianxing's opponent, Hongshan. A young genius that possessed innate divine strength and a strength at the 8th level of the Origin Core stage. He walked to the ring and stood still. He took off the 2 millstone hammers from his back and looked around for his opponent with his blood-red eyes. Ji Tianxing walked through the crowd expressionlessly and stepped onto the ring indifferently. When he stood opposite Hongshan, Hongshan suddenly opened his wide mouth, revealing a disdainful sneer. "Hee hee. Kid, you're really too small. Grandpa, I can smash you into minced meat with a single strike of my hammer. If you know what's good for you, then obediently admit defeat to Grandpa." The tens of thousands of spectators around the ring roared with laughter and mocked Oolong. As far as everyone was concerned, the outcome was already decided based on the appearance and strength of these 2 people. Everyone could guess that after the 2 of them exchanged more than 10 moves, the Black Dragon would definitely be hammered to the ground by Hongshan and beaten to the point of pissing his pants. However, Ji Tianxing stood on the ring expressionlessly. He did not even have the interest to look at Hongshan, and he remained silent.
Luo and De Xiong stood together in the crowd on the square. They were staring at Ji Tianqing's figure and secretly communicating via voice transmission. De Xiong, quickly look. That person really did come. He's also participating in the Saintess personal guard selection. Luo, although that person's strength is very strong, it's still hard to say if he can defeat that big guy. Why do you care about that? Victory or defeat is his business. Whether he can become the Saintess personal guard is his own business. Let's not worry about it. Luo, after all, he saved us. I still hope that he can win and become the Saintess personal guard in the future. We'll have a chance to meet again. In the crowd on the northwest side of the square, young Master Arnold was surrounded by 4 guards. At this moment, young Master Arnold's face was livid. His eyes were spitting fire as he glared at Ji Tianqing on the ring and cursed him angrily. Damned little bastard. This bastard really went into hiding. He only appeared today after hiding for so long. He's dead. In a moment, the blades will crush him into minced meat and let him have a taste of being smashed to pieces. After the competition is over, I'll take him back, let my father extract his soul, and torture him to death. The guard next to him said cautiously, Young Master Arnold, I'm afraid that's not very appropriate. General Geli is very busy. After the competition is over, he still has to accompany the demon commander. I don't care. Young Master Arnold straightened his neck and shouted angrily, I've lived in White Mountain City for more than 20 years, and no one has ever dared to touch me. He dared to break my arms, so I'll make him suffer a fate worse than death. That day, I went out alone and didn't take you with me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have ended up like this. If the 4 of you dare to talk nonsense again, I'll chop you up and eat you. The 4 guards were so scared that they shrank their necks and kept quiet out of fear, not daring to speak again. At this time, the White Mountain City Lord on the ring shouted loudly and announced the start of the competition. Almost at the same time as this voice sounded, Ji Tianqing, who had been indifferent and motionless, suddenly raised his eyelids. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Swoosh! He suddenly moved. His body turned into a blood-colored stream of light and rushed at Hong Shan as fast as he could. There were no complicated moves or superfluous movements. He just clenched his right hand into a fist, released a dark red bloodlight, and fiercely punched at Hong Shan's chest. The power and speed of this punch had reached the limit of the origin core stage. It was so fast that it was like a flash of red light. Hong Shan, who was as huge as a mountain, did not have time to react or dodge before he was hit by this punch. Bang! With a dull bang, the blood-colored fist suddenly bloomed. Hong Shan, who was nearly 20 feet tall and as big as a house, suddenly twisted and deformed. He flew backward with blood spurting out of his 7 orifices. He rolled more than a dozen times in the air, drew an arc, and sprinkled demon blood all over the sky. Then he fell heavily to the ground 10 feet away. Plop! Hong Shan smashed on the floor of the ring and no longer moved. He fainted on the spot. The competition had just begun, and it was over in just a breath's time. There was no doubt that this was the shortest and most shocking competition of the day. The tens of thousands of demon civilians in the square were all stunned and petrified on the spot as they stared at Ji Tianqing. Chapter 1055. Luo and De Xiong, who were in the crowd, suddenly revealed looks of surprise and disbelief. Too terrifying. Hong Shan was actually sent flying by a single punch. This person's strength is really terrifying. It seems that he will definitely become the personal guard of the Saintess. Both of them were shocked to the point that their heartbeats accelerated and were unable to calm down for a long time. In the crowd in the northwest corner of the square, Arnold also stared in horror, his eyes full of disbelief. A moment later, he came back to his senses and his face turned blue with anger, his eyes surging with rage. Bastard! Has his strength reached the Sky Origin stage? No, I can't let him enter the top 100 and become the personal guard of the Saintess. I have to tell my father to let Mu Ran go on stage in the next round. I must beat that little bastard on the spot. He muttered anxiously, gnashing his teeth in hatred toward Ji Tianqing. At this time, the White Mountain City Lord loudly announced the result. Ji Tianqing walked down the ring with an indifferent expression amidst the cheers and exclamations of the crowd. Hong Shan, who had fainted on the ground, was also carried down the ring by the guards of the City Lord's mansion. Next, the White Mountain City Lord read out the names of the demon youths one after another. 8 hours later, the curtain of night fell. The first round of the arena tournament was finally over. Half of the 660 demon youth successfully advanced, while the other half were eliminated. Although the dark curtain of night shrouded White Mountain City, dozens of torches lit up around the square like lighthouses, illuminating the whole square. The arena tournament continued. The White Mountain City Lord waved his hand and sent out 330 jade slips to General Galay for the second round of drawing lots. General Galay released hundreds of bloodlights and quickly divided the more than 300 jade slips into 165 copies, completing the drawing of lots. Then, the White Mountain City Lord announced in a dignified voice, "The second round of the arena tournament begins." The first round. The two demon youths whose names were called stepped onto the ring one after another and began to fight. Ji Tianqing stood quietly in the crowd, silently watching the fight on the ring and observing the moves of the demon youths. In the past month, he had become more and more familiar with the demon race. He also had a more thorough understanding of the demon race's power attribute, the characteristics of their martial arts, and the ways to crack them. The reason why he wanted to steal their techniques was to prepare for the future. Because he was very sure that in the near future, he would have to fight the demon race to the death. The deeper his understanding of the demon race, the greater his chances of winning the decisive battle in the future. Unknowingly, it was already late at night. Within 6 hours, more than 90 pairs of youths from the demon clan fought each other on the stage, and the outcome was decided. At midnight, it was finally Ji Tianqing's turn. The White Mountain City Lord announced loudly, "The 120th match, Oolong vs. Yu." Ji Tianqing immediately walked out of the crowd and stepped onto the stage, standing there. Previously, the scene of him punching Fei Hong Mountain had left a deep impression on countless people, making everyone remember him. Now that he had appeared again, the tens of thousands of people in the square immediately revealed expressions of excitement and anticipation as they whispered to each other. Then, a demon man wearing black armor and a black helmet, carrying a heavy sword on his back, stepped onto the ring. This man was tall and strong, emitting cold murderous intent, like a human-shaped weapon, showing an extremely dangerous aura. Unfortunately, his helmet covered his face, only showing a pair of dark purple eyes. No one could see his face. Tens of thousands of people in the square were all looking at Ji Tianqing, so no one noticed the man in armor named Yu. However, when Ji Tianqing saw Yu enter the arena, he frowned and a trace of doubt flashed in his eyes. Damn it! Which tribe is this young genius from? Has he reached Sky Origin Stage Level 6? That's impossible. Among the hundreds of young demons in the competition, the most powerful ones are only at Sky Origin Stage Level 1 or Level 2. A demon at Sky Origin Stage Level 6 is powerful enough to be a king in a small tribe, and a demon general in a battlefield. There must be something wrong with this guy. And Yu had used some kind of secret treasure to hide his cultivation level, so that normal Sky Origin Stage cultivators couldn't see through him. However, he couldn't hide from Ji Tianqing's soul detection. Ji Tianqing realized something was wrong, so he stared at Yu vigilantly, thinking about how to deal with him. At this moment, Yu walked to 30 meters away from him and looked at him coldly. He sent a message to him, "Boy, your death is coming. I will crush all the bones in your body in front of everyone and turn you into a limp worm. I will let you have a taste of living a life worse than death." Ji Tianqing frowned and sent a message to Yu, "You know me? Do we have a grudge against each other?" A cruel and mocking sneer appeared in Yu's eyes as he sent a voice transmission. "Haha, you'll understand once you climb down from the arena. You are just a bastard from a small tribe. How dare you behave so atrociously in White Mountain City? You are courting death. You have offended someone you shouldn't have. You should wash your neck and wait for your death." Hearing Yu's words, Ji Tianqing finally understood and confirmed his guess. "I see. This Yu is really an expert in disguise. He must be here to avenge that young Shura clan man." Thinking of this, a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. At this moment, the governor of White Mountain City said loudly, "The battle begins now, wait." Ji Tianqing did not attack. He raised his right hand and shouted, interrupting the White Mountain City Lord's words. Suddenly, the governor of White Mountain City, General Galai, and Yu looked at him coldly. The tens of thousands of people in the square also quieted down and looked at him in confusion. Ji Tianqing pointed at Yu and said expressionlessly, "Governor, General, there is something wrong with Yu. He is not one of the young geniuses who are participating in the battle.
He chose to tell the truth in front of everyone and expose Yu's identity. However, before he could finish his sentence, he was interrupted by General Geli. "Shut up!" General Gulai shouted in a dignified tone. He released a powerful aura and suppressed Ji Tianqing. All the participants in this time's arena competition are young geniuses from various tribes, and they have the documents and tokens of their respective tribes. Furthermore, this general and the city lord have also carefully screened them. Blunder! You dare to question your opponent's identity. You are challenging the dignity of the governor and me. The governor of White Mountain City also stared at him coldly and shouted, "Blunder! If you're scared, then admit defeat and surrender now. Don't spoil the competition. The Heaven Barbaric Demon General is supervising the battle. If you continue to pester me, I will punish you." When Ji Tianqing saw the reaction of General Gulai and the governor of White Mountain City, he immediately understood everything. He sneered in his heart. He. These two obviously know that there is something wrong with Yu's identity and want to cover for him. Chapter 1056. Ji Tianqing sneered in his heart, and his killing intent rose. However, since the Sky Barbarian Demon Commander was here, he had to suppress his anger and stop thinking about it. If he made a big deal out of it, it would definitely attract the attention of the Sky Barbarian Demon Commander. By then, the Sky Barbarian Demon Commander might see through his identity. He cupped his hands and said to the governor of White Mountain City, "Governor, I have no intention to ruin the competition. Please continue." The governor of White Mountain City and General Gulai looked at each other and sneered. And Yu also sneered at Ji Tianqing. Ha! Little bastard, you are too naive. The White Mountain City belongs to the general and the governor. A lowly worm like you can only wait to be slaughtered. You will definitely die. Ji Tianqing stared at him expressionlessly, with a touch of pity in his eyes. What a stupid and pitiful guy. In the northwest corner of the square, Arnold was surrounded by 4 bodyguards. He was smiling coldly, his eyebrows dancing in delight. Ha. Screenblade is here. That guy is obviously scared. He is scared out of his wits. He was truly ignorant to the extreme. He actually wanted to expose Screenblade's identity in front of everyone. This was simply too laughable. This poor country bumpkin has no idea about my identity and power. The White Mountain City is the territory of the general's mansion. The 4 bodyguards also revealed gloating sneers. They hurriedly flattered Anua and flattered him. On the arena, the governor of White Mountain City and General Gulai both retreated to the corner. The competition began. Little bastard, be obedient and let me crush you. Yu's face was ferocious as he sneered. His body turned into a stream of black gas and shot towards Ji Tianqing like a shooting star. He didn't use his heavy sword. Instead, he reached out a pair of big palms and slapped toward Ji Tianqing with demonic qi. Ji Tianqing stood still and stared at him coldly. Demonic qi was accumulating inside his body. The governor of White Mountain City and General Gulai were there, and the Sky Barbarian Demon Commander was on the high tower at the edge of the square. He couldn't use all of his power. He couldn't even use the power of Sky Origin Stage. Otherwise, it would arouse suspicion. He could only use about 30% of his power, which was around Sky Origin Stage Level 3. When Yu rushed in front of him, waving his palms in an unbridled manner, he finally made his move. Blood Dragon Rising. He shouted on purpose. Dark red light gushed out of his palms and formed a 10-meter-long blood dragon, which attacked Yu. Yu didn't put Ji Tianqing's attack in his eyes at all. His figure flashed and dodged the attack. His palms continued to attack Ji Tianqing. However, a strange scene appeared. The blood dragon was so fast that it actually went through Yu's palms and hit Yu's chest. In everyone's opinion, Ji Tianqing's strength was not stronger than Yu's. He had only found Yu's weakness and was able to hit him in one move. With a muffled sound, Yu was covered by the bloodlight and flew away. He rolled over in the air for a dozen times. Dark purple blood gushed out of his nose and mouth. He landed on the arena about 30 meters away. Luckily, he was wearing the black armor. He was only severely injured by the blood dragon. If he wasn't wearing the armor, he would have been knocked out by the blood dragon. Suddenly, everyone was shocked. The tens of thousands of commoners were all shocked as they looked at Ji Tianqing in disbelief and cried out in surprise. The White Mountain City Lord and General Golai were also stunned. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. They couldn't believe that this was true. Arnold, who was in the crowd, was so excited. But now the smile on his face froze. After a while, he came to himself. His face turned gloomy. He shouted angrily, "That's impossible." He must have tried his luck and coincidentally hit a flaw in the curtain blade. At this moment, Anu struggled to get up from the arena. Dark purple blood flowed out of his helmet. He was in a sorry state. He was stunned by Ji Tianxing. He stared at Ji Tianxing in disbelief. His eyes were burning with anger. He muttered, "How could he hurt me? I was too careless." He became more cautious. He pulled out the heavy sword on his back. Holding the heavy sword with both hands, he charged at Ji Tianxing again. Demonic Dragon Heaven Shattering Slash. This time, Anu was smarter. He didn't charge at Ji Tianxing. He raised his heavy sword from 30 meters away and slashed out a huge black sword. The overwhelming demonic chi condensed into a 30-meter-long demonic dragon. It carried an incomparably violent power as it smashed towards Ji Tianxing's head. Suddenly, the demonic chi in the arena surged. Black fog filled the sky and a violent hurricane was formed. Ji Tianxing was already prepared, and he also took out a pitch-black heavy sword. This was an ordinary Heaven Origin stage sword. It was a standard demonic weapon that he had prepared in advance. When the demonic dragon Heaven Shattering Slash came, he held the scabbard in his left hand and the hilt in his right hand. He pulled out the demonic sword with a clang. Without a doubt, it was the sword-drawing style. Whoosh! When the demonic sword was pulled out of the scabbard, a 30-meter-long dark red light streaked across the sky like a lightning bolt. It tore apart the black fog that covered the sky. Under the shocked gazes of countless people, the incomparably sharp and fierce blood-red sword light slashed diagonally from the bottom towards Mo Long and Anu. An unbelievable scene appeared. The blood-red sword light avoided the demonic dragon Heaven Shattering Slash at an extremely tricky angle and slashed at Anu with lightning speed. Crack! A crisp cracking sound was heard. Anu's armor shattered on the spot. His legs were also cut off by the blood-red sword light. Dark purple demonic blood splattered everywhere. His body was cut in half on the spot. His upper body was intact, but his legs were cut off. Blood splattered everywhere, and he fell heavily on the arena. At this moment, the demonic dragon Heaven Shattering Slash slashed down and enveloped Ji Tianxing's figure. Boom! Amidst a deafening boom, the 30-meter-long demonic dragon crashed into the ground, causing the entire arena to tremble. Monstrous black fog rose into the air and swept in all directions, filling the entire arena. The tens of thousands of demonic clan people in the square all stared at the arena in shock. They even forgot to exclaim and discuss. Everyone understood that such an earth-shattering movement could not be caused by a primal core expert. Both Oolong and Anu in the arena were obviously Heaven Origin stage experts. However, who won and who lost in this battle? Anu's legs were cut off. Although he was still alive, he had lost his ability to fight and was reduced to a useless person. What about Oolong? Did the demonic dragon Heaven Shattering Slash kill him? This question appeared in the hearts of tens of thousands of people. They waited anxiously and expectantly for the result. Chapter 1057. After a long time, the demonic fog and black chi on the stage finally dispersed. Everyone looked through the night sky and finally saw the scene on the stage. Under the light of the fire, everyone could clearly see that Anu was lying on the stage with only half of his body left. He was lying in a pool of blood with his heavy sword beside him. His body was twitching and he was screaming in pain. There was a big gully on the ground about 30 meters away from him. There were a lot of broken stones on the ground. Ji Tianxing, who was wearing a black leather armor, was standing in the middle of the stage. He was holding the black demonic sword with both hands. He was also injured. The leather armor on his body was cracked. There were wounds on his chest and arms. Dark purple demonic blood kept flowing out and soaked his hair. Of course, he was only slightly injured. His body was intact and he still had the strength to fight. In fact, he was injured on purpose so that he wouldn't attract too much attention and suspicion. If he didn't want to be injured, Anu, who was at Sky Origin Stage Level 6, wouldn't be able to hurt him at all. Even so, the tens of thousands of people in the square were still shocked to the point of incoherence. They let out earth-shattering cheers and shouts. Wow! This is unbelievable! Wulong actually won. This is too scary. He is actually so powerful. This battle is definitely going to be the most exciting battle of the night. He actually blocked the demonic dragon sky-shattering slash with such terrifying power and only got slightly injured. Oh my god! I can't believe my eyes. Countless people of the demon clan were waving their arms excitedly. They were shouting and yelling to express the shock and astonishment in their hearts. In the corner of the stage, the White Mountain City Master and General Gulai's faces became very ugly. Their eyes were as cold as ice. They stared at Ji Tianqing's figure and discussed secretly. General Gulai, there is definitely something wrong with this Wulong. How could there be such a powerful young genius in the Blood Crystal tribe? General Gulai's eyes were gloomy. He said coldly, Master, of course I know there is something wrong with this person. I am very clear about Mu Ren's strength. This Wulong is only at Sky Origin Stage Level 3, but he can defeat Mu Ren. This is simply a miracle. I've lost a trusted subordinate, so I'll definitely pay him back tenfold. City Lord, Wulong is dead for sure. I will definitely take his dog life and tear him into 1,000 pieces. The mayor of White Mountain City hurriedly said, General Geli, please calm down. You must stay calm. Right now, it was the arena competition. The entire city was watching. Moreover, the demon marshal was also on the tower. This matter cannot be blown out of proportion, otherwise Muren's identity will be exposed. If Lord Demon General investigates this matter, none of us will be able to bear the responsibility. General Galay nodded and transmitted his voice. So City Lord, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. I'll let this little bastard live for a while longer. I'll deal with him properly after the combat arena competition ends. After the two finished their discussion, the mayor of White Mountain City stepped into the ring and announced loudly, Wulong wins this round. After he announced the results, the tens of thousands of people in the square became even noisier. Ji Tianqing glanced at Yu with a mocking look and walked down the stage. Yu was angry and in pain. He gnashed his teeth in anger and his eyes almost spat fire. His legs were broken and he couldn't walk on his own. He could only be carried down the stage by the guards of the mayor's mansion. In the northwest corner of the square, Arnold, who was surrounded by 4 guards, was dumbfounded on the spot as if he was petrified. He looked at the stage in a daze and muttered with a dull look, No! This is impossible. How could that little bastard defeat Muren? There's a problem. He must die, he must die. No matter what, I will tear him into 1,000 pieces and grind his bones to ashes. Arnold was so angry that he almost went berserk. He was so angry that his eyes were bloodshot and he almost lost his mind. The arena competition continued. 2 hours later, the second round of the competition ended. 165 young demons were eliminated. Including Ji Tianqing, the other 165 successfully advanced to the third round. The mayor of White Mountain City took out 165 jade slips and gave them to General Geli to draw lots. Among them, 164 people had to fight each other in pairs to determine the victor. The 82 people who won would become the Saint Girl's personal guards. There was only one lucky person who didn't need to participate in the competition, and directly advanced to become the Saint Girl's personal guard. This round of competition continued for an entire 6 hours. Ji Tianqing's opponent was a young demon at the 9th level of the Origin Core stage. This young demon was shocked by his performance earlier and was extremely reverent and afraid of him. The two of them had only exchanged one move when Ji Tianqing blasted him flying and heavily injured him. The third round of the competition ended early the next morning. 82 people including Ji Tianqing and the lucky person. A total of 83 people successfully became the Saint Girl's personal guards. When the mayor of White Mountain City announced the results, the square was bustling with noise and cheers. However, the competition wasn't over yet. There were 100 spots for the Saint Girl's personal guards. Currently, there were 83 people who had become the personal guards, and there were still 17 people missing. These 17 people would be selected from the 82 people who had lost. The 82 people who had been defeated would continue to fight until the final 17 people would emerge victorious. However, this had nothing to do with Ji Tianqing and the others. He and the other 82 people temporarily left the square in the middle of the city. They were arranged to stay in a 3-story palace made of black stone in the city governor's estate. Everyone was given a room. After they entered the room, They circulated their energy to heal their injuries and recover their strength. After all, these young demons had gone through a few rounds of the arena competition. They were all injured and weak. Ji Tianqing meditated in his room for 6 hours before he healed his injuries and recovered his strength. At noon, another 17 young demons entered the palace and were arranged to stay by the guards of the city governor's estate. The 100 Saint Girls' personal guards were finally gathered. A commander of the city governor's estate came to the palace and announced a piece of news to everyone. Today, everyone would stay in the palace temporarily to recuperate. Early the next morning, everyone would leave White Mountain City with the Heavenly Barbaric Demon Commander and head to the Heavenly Devil Palace in the hinterland of the Northern Desert. When the young demons heard the news, they were overjoyed. They were filled with excitement and anticipation. Ji Tianqing was also filled with anticipation. He thought to himself, "This is great. I will be able to meet the Saint Girl soon and prove her identity." Yao Yao, Yao Yao, are you really the Saint Girl of the demons? A day passed quickly. The arena competition had ended. The square in the middle of the city was empty. However, the entire White Mountain City was still immersed in jubilation and noise. The demons on the streets were still talking about the competition. When night fell, Ji Tianqing was meditating in his room. Suddenly, a commander of the city governor's estate knocked on the door and ordered expressionlessly, "Oolong, come with me." Ji Tianqing frowned and looked at him in confusion. "Why are you looking for me?" The guard commander said indifferently, "Don't ask too much. I'm just following orders. Follow me." Seeing his reaction, Ji Tianqing vaguely guessed something. He didn't ask any more questions and followed the commander out of the palace. It was dark outside. The city governor's estate was singing and dancing. The city governor of White Mountain City was entertaining the Heavenly Barbaric Demon Commander. However, the commander took him out of the city governor's estate. They chose a path with no one around and left the city governor's estate quickly. An hour later, the commander took him out of White Mountain City and into a snow mountain outside the city. Ji Tianqing followed the commander silently. He didn't show any expression, but there was a cold smile and killing intent in his eyes. He had already guessed what the commander was going to do and what was going to happen next. Chapter 1058. Under the night sky, the snow mountain was dark and white. The valley with a radius of more than 10 miles was covered with thick snow. The cold wind was howling, and snow was swirling in the air. The guard commander led Ji Tianqing into the valley and stopped in his tracks. Ji Tianqing secretly released his soul strength to observe the surroundings of the valley. Immediately, he found that there was a large array set up in the valley. At this time, the guard commander turned to look at him and sneered. He asked, "Boy, you are really a little bastard from a remote village. Even if you have some strength, you are still an ignorant and cowardly reptile. You didn't even ask why I brought you here. You are really stupid." Ji Tianqing looked at him with a sneer and said with contempt and pity, "I didn't ask because I knew what you were going to do. I was willing to come here with you because, in my eyes, you are already a dead man." What do you mean?" The guard commander's face stiffened and he asked vigilantly. Ji Tianqing sneered and said, "If I'm not wrong, you are not a guard of the city governor's mansion. You are from the general's mansion. The Shura youth whose arms were broken by me should be the young master of the general's mansion. And you, who fought with me today, is also an expert from the general's mansion. Didn't you bring me here to kill me and avenge your young master?" The guard commander's face changed dramatically and he shouted with a fierce look, "You! How do you know all this?" Ji Tianqing's face was filled with disdain, but he didn't answer. At this time, there was a burst of applause 100 steps behind them. Clap, clap, clap. Ji Tianqing turned around and saw that on the empty snowy ground, 2 demon clan men had appeared out of nowhere. The leader was wearing a dark purple armor and a scarlet cloak. He was tall and sturdy. He was General Gulai. The man standing beside him was the Shura youth, General Gulai's son, Arnold. General Geli walked over and clapped his hands. He sneered and said, "Oolong, your intelligence has surprised me. I really didn't expect that you would be able to guess the truth of the matter in such a short time with just a few clues. Unfortunately, in front of absolute strength, no matter how smart you are, it's useless." General Galay seemed to have a well-thought-out plan. He brought Arnold into the valley and stood 100 steps away from Ji Tianqing. He showed his true colors as a powerhouse and sneered in a dignified and domineering manner. Oolong, even if you have some strength, you are too ignorant. You shouldn't have shown your prowess in White Mountain City, and you shouldn't have provoked my son and broken his arms. I am merciful and will give you a chance. As long as you kneel down and apologize to my son and satisfy him, I will give you a quick death. Ji Tianxing was not in a hurry to make a move. He raised his eyebrows and sneered. What is a quick death? General Geli grinned and said in a cold tone, I will crush all your bones and dig out your heart to go with wine. This is a quick and painful death. It is a quick death. Ha! General Geli is really merciful. Ji Tianxing raised his head and laughed. His voice was cold and full of murderous intent. Arnold had been staring at him with hatred. When he saw his reaction, he cursed furiously, Little bastard. You are about to die and you still dare to be so arrogant. I don't agree. I will never let you have a quick death. I will cut off your flesh piece by piece and dig out your internal organs and eyes. I will dig out something to go with wine every day. Ji Tianxing glanced at General Geli and Arnold coldly and suddenly sighed. Alas! The lowly and barbaric demon clan is so cruel and bloodthirsty. They are doomed to die. General Geli, Arnold, and the leader of the guards all frowned. Their faces were full of doubts and astonishment. What? Little bastard, what do you mean? Ji Tianxing ignored them and pulled out the broken sword burial of heaven like a bolt of lightning. Clang! The sword was unsheathed. Swoosh! A ghastly cold light flashed and slashed towards the leader of the guards closest to him. At that instant, the ghastly cold and dazzling sword light tore through the night and illuminated the gloomy snow ground. The divine sword was unsheathed, peerlessly sharp. No one could block it. Anyone who touched it would die. The 9th level Origin Core stage leader of the guards didn't even have time to react before his neck was slashed off by the swordlight. The astonishment on his face hadn't dissipated when a bloody mark appeared on his neck and dark purple devil blood gushed out. Then, the bloody mark gradually expanded. His head slowly slid down and fell onto the soft snow ground. His corpse was still standing. A scorching arrow of blood sprayed out from his neck and sprinkled onto the snow ground. It was dark red and dazzling. After 2 breaths of time, the leader's corpse slowly fell to the ground. The big head's eyes were still wide open. He died with his eyes wide open. General Gulai and Anua were instantly stunned. Their eyes were wide open in shock. You bastard! I'll kill you! General Gulai was instantly furious. He hurriedly waved his hand and shot out a black gas that covered the sky and scattered it around the valley. Swoosh! The formation buried in the valley was activated. The edge of the valley lit up with a black mist that shot into the sky. It immediately condensed into a sky curtain with a radius of more than 10 miles. The pitch-black sky curtain enveloped the entire valley and separated Ji Tianxing's group from the outside world. No matter what happened in the valley, even if the sky fell and the earth cracked, it wouldn't alarm the outside world. The reason General Gulai did this was because he had to consider the reaction of the people in the city and the Heaven Barbaric Devil Marshal's perception. He wanted to secretly avenge his son and couldn't let this matter spread out. Otherwise, it would damage his reputation. However, he didn't expect that this was exactly what Ji Tianxing wanted. Black gas surged all over his body. His body immediately changed. Black scales appeared on his skin, azure wings sprouted from his shoulders, and rows of sharp spikes grew from his back. In the blink of an eye, General Gulai showed the characteristics of the Azura tribe. His face became ferocious and his aura was cold and terrifying. He was like a pitch-black Azura. His entire body was surging with the aura of death and slaughter. He roared and pounced on Ji Tianxing. Anua quickly hid at the edge of the valley and shouted excitedly, "Father, kill him! Tear him into pieces and let him die without a burial place." Ji Tianxing glanced at him with a pitiful look, then sneered mockingly. Then, he ignored Anua. His body turned into a ball of bloodlight and rushed toward General Gulai as fast as lightning. He directly attacked him. Demonic flame cut. He held the broken sword with both hands and used a secret technique of the Devil Dao. He violently slashed out a giant bloodlight blade that was 50 meters long toward General Gulai's head. General Gulai felt the power of the giant bloodlight blade. His face changed abruptly, revealing a look of horror. You actually hid your strength in the arena? You're not at Sky Origin Stage Level 3, but Sky Origin Stage Level 8? Although he was shocked, he had rich battle experience and reacted quickly. He quickly waved his pair of black claws and released more than 200 black light blades, forming a sword net to protect himself. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.